Hey there, and welcome back to the Yours and Old FoMoCo Iron YouTube channel. My name is Adrian Clements, and today in video number 27, we're going to learn all about the 1966 Ford Bronco, FoMoCo's original and all-new 4x4 sports utility vehicle. And when I say we're going to learn all about the 66 Bronco, I truly mean it. This video has 25 sections and is over 3 hours in length. Incredibly, the Bronco was Ford's fourth brand new vehicle line launch in just 6 years, following the 1960 Falcon, 1962 Fairlane, and 1965 Mustang. In chronological order, we'll see design proposals, pre-production units, press releases, press photos, newspaper advertisements, a promotional film, a dozen different pieces of period Ford literature, technical specifications, paint color samples, magazine articles, production numbers, and how to properly and fully decode 66 Bronco VINs and production data. Finally, to close the video will be more than 20 images of an almost perfectly restored 1966 Ford Bronco Roadster with commentary. Many thanks to the Ford Heritage Vault and Ford Media Center for their generosity in allowing me to feature many of their original period images in this video. And thanks also to my friend Roger Town for his skilled assistance with part number research. Let's get to it. Just for fun, I'm running a contest in this video that will test your knowledge of the 1966 Ford Bronco as we move through all 25 sections of this video. You can see all of the questions here and also in the description box below the video. Additionally, I'll show each section's question at the beginning of the section as a refresher. The first 3 people to answer all 25 questions correctly will win a prize pack. The first place prize pack consists of these 7 different pieces of 1966 FoMoCo literature, 2 of which are Bronco related, plus an I work at Ford, I drive a Ford bumper sticker. The second place prize pack has these 5 different pieces of 66 Ford literature, including 2 Bronco related ones, plus a bumper sticker. The third place prize pack is these 2 Bronco related pieces of 1966 literature, plus a bumper sticker. Please enter the contest by sending me an email at adrian.clements@me.com with your name and the numbered answers for the 25 questions. Please do not answer the questions in the comments, as any responses there will be ignored. Once the 3 winners are known, I will post a comment below to that effect and contact the winners via email for their mailing addresses to get their prizes out to them in the mail. This video took me 28 days in a row, working between 8 and 12 hours every day to research, gather and edit the images, write the script, edit the script, record the voiceovers, and compile the video. If you enjoy this video and learn from it, please consider making a donation to support my work. I accept PayPal at adrian.clements@me.com, Venmo at Adrian-Clements, and Cash App at $67FordMan. Please be sure to subscribe and share the Yours and Old FoMoCo Iron YouTube channel with your old car friends in order to grow our community. Thank you kindly for any and all support that you can provide. For Section 1, in the beginning, thank you, McKinley William Thompson, Jr. This is contest question number 1. How many years did McKinley William Thompson, Jr. work for Ford Motor Company? On Wednesday, July 24, 1963, almost exactly 2 years before the 1966 Ford Bronco was introduced in the summer of 1965, this package proposal number 5 for Bronco 4x4 light-duty off-highway vehicle was drawn by Ford designer McKinley William Thompson, Jr. This drawing was photographed as image number S-6600-7 just under 4 weeks later on Tuesday, August 20th, 1963. Other than minor differences in the radiator grille and the placement of the spare tire, McKinley's drawing bears a very strong resemblance to the production Bronco Roadster. Also from McKinley Thompson, drawn and photographed on the same dates just listed, and photographed as image number S-6600-4 was this drawing of what looks like the vehicle that would become the Bronco Sports Utility, while image number S-6600-1, again with the same dates, portends the Bronco Wagon. Image number S-6600-3 also was photographed on August 20th, 1963, and gives us the front right three-quarter view of the future Bronco Wagon. In celebration of Black History Month, February 2024, let's talk about African-American McKinley William Thompson, Jr. He was born on Wednesday, November 8th, 1922, and grew up in Queens, New York, just outside New York City. His passion for automobiles began at an early age, but was interrupted by his service in the Army Signal Corps in World War II, which taught him drafting and engineering layout skills. McKinley graduated from the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California, with a degree in transportation design in 1956, whereupon he was hired as the first African-American designer in Ford's Advanced Design Studio in Dearborn, Michigan. Notably, McKinley worked on a number of concept cars, as well as production vehicles such as the GT40, Mustang, and Bronco. He left Ford in 1984 after 28 years with the company and passed away on Wednesday, March 8, 2006. Many thanks to Mr. Thompson for his design contributions at Ford, especially his excellent work on the 1966 Bronco. Dated Wednesday, October 23, 1963, 2 months after McKinley's drawings and 6 months before the 1965 Ford Mustang debuted on April 17, 1964, this FoMoCo blue sheet from Lee Iacocca, General Manager, Ford Division, was written. It tasked the Product Planning Committee at Ford Division to begin studying the 0 to 10,000 pound, or 4,535 kilogram, GVW, or gross vehicle weight, four-wheel drive market in the U.S., with the intention of developing a Ford utility vehicle codenamed Bronco. Just 35 days after the blue sheet was written, this Bronco Wagon styling clay was photographed in the styling display area, shot from the left front three-quarter view as image number S-6878-2, on Wednesday, November 27, 1963. The similarities to McKinley Thompson Jr.'s drawings labeled Package Proposal Number 5 is unmistakable. The Roadster door cutouts are out of place on the wagon, but the radiator grille design is close to the actual production grille. Image number S-6878-4 was taken the same day and shows the left rear three-quarter view of the same styling clay. Interestingly, the tailgate FORD letters and the license plate are swapped from their production locations. 9 days later, on Friday, December 6, 1963, image number S-6904-5, taken in the Advanced Styling Workshop, shows that the FORD letters and the license plate have been changed to their production positions. That same day, this right front three-quarter view in image number S-6904-2 shows a passenger door has been added to the wagon and a front license plate has been added in the production location. While other vehicle names such as Rustler, Caballero, and Gaucho were considered, ultimately the project codename of Bronco was selected for the final production vehicle. Ford's thinking with the Bronco was similar to the Mustang. Produce an outstanding, sensibly equipped vehicle at a reasonable base price and offer lots of options with which the customer can personalize the vehicle to meet their exact needs and desires. At the time, vehicles such as the International Harvester Company, or IHC, or just International Scout, the International Travelall, the Jeep CJ5, the Jeep Gladiator, the Jeep Wagoneer, and the Chevrolet Suburban Carryall accounted for a large portion of the sales in the four-wheel drive market, which was on track to grow from slightly more than 11,000 units in 1960 to 40,000 units in 1964, and was projected to be 70,000 units by 1970. Just as they had done in developing the Mustang, Ford heavily researched the existing market, identifying what consumers wanted to see in future offerings. They surveyed some of the 10,000 members of the approximately 300 organized four-wheeler groups in the U.S., people who enjoyed exploring the remote wilderness and others who drove over less demanding terrain. These surveys identified 7 main improvements that the owners wanted in their next 4x4 vehicle, namely higher highway cruising speed, the ability to climb steeper grades, improved ride, weather-tight cabs, more comfortable seats, shorter turning radius, and readily available parts and service. So Ford designers, engineers, and suppliers got to work, and in less than 18 months, Ford was assembling pre-production units. For Section 2, pre-production units, this is contest question number 2. What is the pre-production unit number on the windshield of the 1966 Ford Bronco Wagon? Before full-scale production of the 1966 Ford Bronco would begin in August 1965, a number of what are called pre-production or PP units were built in order to test the build plant assembly process, verify the fit and finish of parts, provide vehicles for testing purposes, etc. These units would have been produced most likely in the late winter or early spring of 1965. Looking at this left front three-quarter view of this Bronco sports utility, we see that the front bumper shows many nicks and scratches in the paint, so this unit was definitely being used. This vehicle has a PP unit number stenciled at top center of the windshield, and if we zoom in, we can read that number 091. A reverse 9 and 1 can also be seen in the lower right-hand corner of the backlight. This photo was heavily retouched to remove both 091 stencils, brighten up the vehicle, remove the heavy shadows underneath, smooth out the studio floor, add white walls to the tires, change the 1965 Michigan manufacturer's license plate 12M-932 to a generic 1966 plate, change the front bumper from dinged-up paint to chrome, change the fender-mounted outside rear-view mirrors from non-production black to production white paint, and add the missing Bronco script to the front fender. Perhaps the Bronco script was missing because this unit was being driven on the street as part of the testing and Ford didn't want the public seeing the name of the vehicle yet. This left-hand side view of PP091 shows the missing Bronco script on the front fender, as well as the non-production black rearview mirrors and window frames. Also of note are the 2 gas fill caps. The rear one leads to the Bronco's standard rear-mounted 14.5-gallon fuel tank, while the front one leads to an auxiliary frame-mounted 12-gallon fuel tank beneath the driver that wouldn't become a regular production option, or RPO, on the Bronco until May 1966. The optional rear full wheel cover appears to be a prototype piece, as the center is white instead of stainless steel. In this left rear three-quarter view, we can clearly see the bulkhead behind the front seats that separates the passenger area from the cargo area. The spare wheel and tire are mounted on the passenger side of this bulkhead, though the keyhole on the left side of the bulkhead makes it appear that the spare could be mounted on either side. Please note that the black painted wheels on this pre-production unit are incorrect, as production 1966 Ford Broncos with 15-inch tires had white painted wheels. The PP unit number stencil of 091 in the lower left corner of the backlight can be clearly seen from this angle. The only non-production item seen in this rear view of PP091 not already mentioned is the painted tailgate latch handle and surround, as these items were chromed for production. The tire marks on the top of the bulkhead on either side of the left-hand keyhole show that the spare tire was indeed mounted there on this vehicle at some point. The right rear three-quarter view shows no optional full wheel covers on this side of the vehicle, and that the Bronco script is also missing from the right-hand fender. There's nothing new to mention in this photo of the right-hand side. In this right front three-quarter view, the 2 091 PP unit number stencils are almost superimposed. This is the front view of PP091. This left rear three-quarter view with the tailgate down shows the Bronco's cargo area to advantage. It's interesting that the jacking instructions are affixed to the rear right-hand inner wall of the cargo area, but that no jack is secured to the floor below the instructions as was done in production. As seen earlier in the section, this photo too was heavily retouched to remove both 091 stencils, brighten up the vehicle, remove the heavy shadows underneath, smooth out the studio floor, add white walls to the tires, including the spare, add the missing Bronco script to the front fender, and change the fender-mounted outside rearview mirrors from non-production black to production white paint. Additionally, the left-hand keyhole and rubber marks on the bulkhead were removed. The left-hand interior view of PP091 reveals optional front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats, along with incorrect black interior window frames, painted instead of chromed fold-down windshield locking knobs, and no dash pad instead of the black padded dash pad that was standard on all production Broncos. The right-hand interior view shows the same items seen from the other side. The white 7-slotted grille with downward-facing openings that is situated to the left of the glove box is the speaker grille for the optional manual AM radio that's mounted to the lower left of the speaker grille. This screw-on design of speaker grille was only used in PP units and possibly very early build units. After that, all Broncos had 7 horizontal grille openings stamped into the dash, which were left as is when no AM radio was ordered, and the speaker was secured behind the 7 slots with 4 screws through the dash when an AM radio was ordered. Looking at the dashboard from this side, it appears that there was a dash pad attached to it at some point, as the paint is scratched around the dash pad mounting holes. Notice that the Sports Utility is equipped with only a left-hand padded sun visor, which was available as an option individually or paired with a matching right-hand one. The final item of note in this photo are the vacuum-powered windshield wiper motors affixed to the windshield header, one partially obscured behind the sun visor and the other visible to the right. This photo of PP091 being driven up a steep, grass-covered hill may help explain the front bumper paint damage seen at the beginning of this section. This photo was most likely taken at the Dearborn Proving Ground, or DPG, at the northwest corner of Rotunda Drive and the M39 Southfield Freeway in Dearborn, Michigan. Here's PP091 tearing around the track, again most likely at DPG. Here's an engine compartment view showing the standard 170 cubic inch inline-6 engine with a 1-barrel carburetor that developed 105 horsepower. Note that the oddly shaped black assembly atop and beside the engine is an oil bath air cleaner, which was standard equipment on the Bronco. The 2 plastic hats at opposite ends of the cowl area indicate that PP091 had an optional heater and defroster, as the Bronco came standard without a heater or defroster. Let's talk about a couple of engine-related items inside this green box. First is the Canadian Filters Limited sticker on the air cleaner, which also shows sample number and date along the bottom. This is a pre-production supplier label identifying the manufacturer of the part so that Ford reports on fit, finish, and operability can be properly collected, tracked, and communicated to the supplier. Affixed to the valve cover and mostly obscured by hoses is a sticker that appears to be the same as this one that we'll see in Section 7. The sticker seen here shows E and F engine number X6T-170-2-8 experimental, where E and F would stand for FoMoCo's Engine and Foundry Division. X6T indicates that this is an experimental 1966 truck engine, and 2-8 is perhaps some type of engine design iteration number or date code. The idea behind this sticker is the same as with the air cleaner supplier sticker. keep tabs on experimental parts in an effort to ultimately improve build quality. The final engine compartment point of interest is inside this little green box, where we see the word truck and the numbers 3-16-65 handwritten on masking tape applied to the battery. That date is Tuesday, March 16th, 1965, which was perhaps the date this battery was installed in this vehicle. Here's a pre-production Bronco Roadster, or so one might think. However, notice the 091 stencil on the windshield and the 12M-932 license plate. This is actually the sports utility that we've been looking at this entire section that has been modified to pose as a Roadster. Not only have both doors and the half roof been removed, but so has the bulkhead behind the front seats. The bulkhead was welded in place for normal production, but must have been bolted in for PP091. An optional two-person rear bench seat has been put in place, and the spare wheel and the tire have been relocated to the inside of the tailgate, as was done in production when the rear bench seat was ordered. Here's the same vehicle, now with the windshield folded flat and latched in place, as could be done on all production Broncos when no roof was in place. Yet again, this photo was heavily retouched to brighten up the vehicle, remove the heavy shadows underneath, smooth out the studio floor, add white walls to the tires, change the 1965 Michigan manufacturer's license plate 12M932 to a generic 1966 plate, change the front bumper from dinged up paint to chrome, change the fender mounted outside rear view mirrors from non-production black to production white paint, and add the missing Bronco script to the front fender. However, the biggest change was the addition of the contoured door openings to the door cutouts on both sides, which necessitated some photographic reworking of the floor area around the driver's seat. The retouchers missed fixing one item, however. If you look inside this green box, the angled black mark in contact with the very left end of the padded sun visor is actually the vertical left side of the 0 in the 091 windshield stencil. Let's look at another pre-production unit, this time a light-colored Bronco Wagon. Unlike the sports utility / Roadster already seen, the wagon is in very good condition, with no paint scratches or wear evident. A 1966 plate is affixed to the front end. The Bronco script is present on the front fender. The left fender-mounted rearview mirror is the correct white painted unit, and the window frames are now correctly painted body color instead of being black. However, the radiator grille Ford letters aren't painted a dark color, so they are essentially indistinguishable from this angle. This vehicle has a PP unit number stenciled at top center of the windshield and at lower right of the liftgate window. If we zoom in on the windshield number and flip and zoom in on the liftgate number, we see that they are both 524. The side view of PP524 shows that this vehicle is also equipped with the auxiliary frame-mounted 12-gallon fuel tank beneath the driver that became optionally available in May 1966, as evidenced by the front gas cap. Notice that this wagon doesn't have the optional full wheel covers on this side, and we'll see momentarily that there are none on the passenger side either. Both sides of PP24 have unadorned black painted wheels. More on this soon. There seem to have been some refueling difficulties as shown by the staining below the rearmost fill cap for the standard rear-mounted 14.5-gallon fuel tank. The left rear three-quarter view shows that the spare wheel and tire are mounted to the cargo side of the tailgate, meaning that this wagon should be equipped with an optional two-person rear bench seat. Otherwise, the spare would be mounted to the cargo side of the bulkhead, like the sports utility PP091 already seen. The wagon's rear view shows that the FORD letters on the liftgate are body color instead of being painted white, but the tailgate latch handle and surround are now chromed instead of painted, another step forward in using actual production parts. The right rear three-quarter view of PP524 doesn't show us anything new, But this photo was also heavily retouched. The vehicle was brightened, the shadows underneath and the studio floor were smoothed out, white walls were added to the right-hand tires and the spare, which looks a little bit off to me. The PP524 numbers were removed from the windshield and liftgate window. Both bumpers were changed from white painted to chromed, and the tailgate Ford letters were changed to white. Strangely, the window frames were darkened a bit from the original body color. You can see how tiny the exhaust pipe is in this side view of PP524. This right front three-quarter view of the Bronco Wagon PP524 was also heavily retouched to brighten up the vehicle, smooth out the shadows underneath and the studio floor, add white walls to the tires, remove the 524 number from the liftgate window, change the front bumper from white paint to chrome, and make the radiator grille Ford letters dark. Again, the window frames were darkened a bit. The front view shows the Ford letters stamped into the radiator grille but not painted a dark color for improved legibility. This right rear three-quarter view with the tailgate down and liftgate up shows us why the spare wheel and tire are mounted on the inside of the liftgate. As expected, this wagon has an optional two-person rear bench seat. The vinyl on the rear bench seat is not the right color and is far too dark. Notice how the license plate holder mounted to the left side of the tailgate stays vertical as the liftgate is lowered for visibility from behind. We'll find the answer to the question of why this wagon doesn't have the optional full wheel covers on either side inside this green box, which shows via the tire label that the spare is a Firestone 6.50 by 16-inch 6-ply rated tire. 15-inch wheels and tires were standard on the Bronco, with these 6.50 by 16-inch 6-ply rated truck-type tube tires being optional. However, the optional full wheel covers were only available with the standard 15-inch wheels, so the 16-inch wheels were left bare on Broncos equipped with 16-inch tires. The left-hand interior view of PP524 shows the optional front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats. We can also see a large number of non-production features as shown in these green boxes. Starting at the left, we have a 1965 style F-Series body data plate riveted to the driver A-pillar door jamb, whereas production units had smaller 1966 style Bronco and F-Series data plates riveted to the driver's side kick panel near the foot-operated emergency brake pedal. Next up are the painted instead of chromed fold-down windshield locking knobs at each end of the dash, also seen on the Sports Utility / Roadster. Visible between the windshield knobs, the horn ring center actually has Falcon embossed in it. The gas pedal is a floor-secured 1965 F-Series unit and not the free-hanging 1966 gas pedal that was used in production. Finally, the fire extinguisher secured to the passenger side kick panel is not standard equipment, but it's always a good idea, especially in a pre-production unit. This photo is a close-up view of the right-hand vacuum-powered windshield wiper motor mounted to the windshield header. The vacuum line from the engine compartment that powers the motor can be seen connecting to the motor on the left-hand side. The right-hand interior view of the wagon shows that, like PP091, this vehicle is equipped with an optional left-hand padded sun visor and does not have the standard black dash pad. However, unlike PP091, PP524 actually lacks dash pad mounting holes. Also like PP091, this wagon has the 7-slotted speaker grille with downward-facing openings, though it isn't painted white on this vehicle. For Section 3, Press Releases, this is contest question number 3. What month, day, and year was the second detailed-filled 1966 Ford Bronco press release issued? About the same time as the pre-production units just seen were being evaluated, the automotive world first learned about the new 1966 Ford Bronco in this FoMoCo teaser press release from Wednesday, April 28, 1965, which states, Ford Division said today its 1966 lines will include a small four-wheel drive utility vehicle called the Bronco. Donald N. Frey, Ford Motor Company Vice President and Ford Division General Manager, said the Bronco will draw on the broad experience Ford has had in building the M51, a military utility vehicle popularly known as the Mutt, and more than 282,000 four-wheel drive military vehicles built by Ford during World War II. We believe the Bronco will offer customers new standards in this type of vehicle, including ruggedness, maneuverability, and go-anywhere roadability, Mr. Frey said. While short on any details, this press release was covered in some newspapers, as we'll soon see in Section 6. On Wednesday, August 11, 1965, about 3.5 months after the teaser press release, Ford published a detail-filled 6-page press release that was shared with automotive journalists at the 1966 Ford Bronco's press debut in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. As a matter of fact, the Bronco holds the distinction of being the first 1966 model publicly introduced by any domestic manufacturer in the U.S. These are pages 1 and 2 of the press release. I'm not going to read all the text. We'll cover some portions of it next. But I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. I do want to cover the second and third paragraphs as follows. The new Ford Bronco is a sports utility vehicle which, with its standard 2- and 4-wheel drive, is equally at home on a rugged mountain grade or on a run to the shopping center. Designed to operate on or off the highway, the new Ford vehicle comes in 3 body styles: a sporty Roadster, top, a roomy wagon, bottom, and a short-roof utility model, center. Donald N. Frey, Company Vice President and Ford Division General Manager, said, The Ford Bronco has been designed to join the Mustang in providing modern, active Americans with driving adventure as well as practical transportation. The new Bronco lineup consisted of 3 body styles. The first was the standard Roadster, which had no doors or roof, a fold-down tailgate, a windshield that could be folded flat, a front bench seat, and a steel bulkhead behind the front seat. The Bronco Roadster can be identified by U13 in the first 3 places of the 11-digit Vehicle Identification Number, or VIN. The second body style was the Sports Utility, which had a removable white-painted steel roof that covered the front seating area and had a fixed glass backlight, steel doors with roll-up windows, a fold-down tailgate, a foldable windshield when the roof wasn't in place, a front bench seat, and a steel bulkhead behind the front seat. The Bronco Sports Utility has U14 as the first 3 digits of the VIN. The third and final body style was the wagon, which had a removable white-painted steel roof that covered the front seating area and rear cargo area, had fixed rear side windows, and a lockable rear liftgate with a fixed rear window. The wagon had steel doors with roll-up windows, a fold-down tailgate, a foldable windshield when the roof wasn't in place, a front bench seat, and a steel bulkhead behind the front seat. The Bronco wagon can be identified by U15 in the first 3 places of the VIN. These are pages 3 and 4 of the press release from August 11th, 1965. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like. I'm not going to read all the text, but I do want to cover the seating paragraphs on page 3 as follows. Seating. With the low front tunnel of the Bronco, a 3-man bench seat becomes practical and is offered as standard equipment. Twin bucket seats are optional for maximum comfort and lateral support. For 4-passenger seating, a 2-passenger bench-type rear seat also may be added in combination with the front bucket seats. With this arrangement, the steel bulkhead is deleted to permit rear seat access. The spare tire, normally mounted on the steel bulkhead, is then mounted on the inside of the tailgate, behind the rear seat. This excerpt from page 5 of the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog, released in August 1965, shows 3 of the 5 seating choices for the 1966 Bronco Roadster. The front 3-person bench seat was standard equipment on all Broncos, but could be optionally replaced with a left-hand bucket seat or a pair of left-hand and right-hand bucket seats. Also available on the Roadster and the Wagon, but not on the Sports Utility, was an optional 2-person rear bench seat, but only when an optional left-hand bucket seat or left-hand and right-hand bucket seats were also ordered. The steel bulkhead behind the front bucket seat or seats was eliminated when the rear bench seat was also specified, in order to allow for passenger movement between the front and the rear areas. When launched, the Bronco was available only with silver gray vinyl upholstery, but parchment front bucket seats and a parchment rear bench seat also became available in the spring of 1966. This photo clearly demonstrates why a front bucket seat or seats was required when the 2-person rear bench seat was ordered. There is no way to get to the rear bench seat short of crawling over the front bench seat. That wouldn't be too complicated in this Bronco Roadster with doors or wagon with the roof removed, but would be a different matter entirely with a Roadster vinyl roof or the wagon's steel roof in place. I put together this 1966 Ford Bronco seating configurations chart to succinctly summarize the different seating combinations available on the Roadster, Sports Utility, and Wagon. Of the 15 possible permutations, the only 2 that weren't permitted were a rear 3-person bench seat in the Sports Utility. Let's also talk about the powertrain paragraph at the bottom of page 3 as follows. Powertrain. The Bronco is powered by a 170 cubic inch, 105 horsepower, 6-cylinder engine, specially adapted for rugged use in off-highway operation. Unique to the Bronco engine are a special carburetor and fuel pump for positive fuel supply under all conditions, a special oil bath air cleaner, and a large 6-quart capacity oil pan to provide proper lubrication. A cast iron housing protects the clutch against damage in rocky terrain. When launched, the 1966 Bronco was only available with the 170 cubic inch inline-6 engine with a 1-barrel carburetor that developed 105 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and 158 pound-feet of torque at 2,400 RPM with a 9.1-to-1 compression ratio. This engine can be identified by an F in the 4th position of the VIN. As we'll see later in the video, a 289 cubic inch V8 engine with a 2-barrel carburetor rated at 200 horsepower was added to the Bronco lineup in early March 1966. Let's switch gears and talk about the Bronco's transmission and transfer case, pun intended by the way, in the first 4 paragraphs on page 4. All 1966 Broncos had a fully synchronized 3-speed manual column shift transmission. No automatic transmission was optionally available. All 66 Broncos also had a 2-speed transfer case with a 4-position shift lever mounted left of center on the transmission hump. In sequence from front to rear, the lever provides positions for 4-wheel drive low, neutral, 2-wheel drive high, and 4-wheel drive high. When launched, the Bronco's transfer case shift lever had a round black knob on top with position labels molded into it, as shown on the left side of this composite image. The left-hand drawing is from the lower right-hand corner of page 8 of the initial 1966 Ford Bronco all-purpose vehicle sales catalog published in August 1965. However, partway through the 1966 model year, the round black ball transfer case shift lever was replaced with a T-bar handled unit with a thumb-operated lock button, as shown on the right side of this image. The right-hand drawing is also from the lower right-hand corner of page 8 of the 1966 Ford Bronco all-purpose vehicle sales catalog, but this time from an updated version published in January 1966. Based on the drawing caption verbiage that states, "Transfer case T-bar shift lever provides a positive lock to prevent transfer case from possibly jumping out of four-wheel drive. I suspect that the shift lever change was made in response to that very problem in the field reported by early Bronco users." The neutral setting in the transfer case was used for the optional front and or rear PTO, or power takeoff, for aftermarket equipment like a front-mounted 8,000-pound or 3,625 kilogram capacity winch, logging saw, post-hole digger, rotary broom, etc. The final note about the transfer case is the through drive design, which in two-wheel drive mode powered the rear wheels without engaging the transfer case gears, making for quieter operation. This design feature was especially beneficial when driving the Bronco on the highway. Continuing with the last two paragraphs in the powertrain section at the bottom of page 4 of the press release, we see that when launched, the 66 Bronco came standard with a 2,780-pound or 1,260 kilogram rear axle, while a 3,300-pound or 1,500 kilogram rear axle was optional. Limited slip, which was period Ford speak for a locking differential, was also optionally available with both rear axle capacities. Looking at the top of the specifications box on page 12 of the 1966 Ford Bronco all-purpose vehicle sales catalog published in August 1965, at the top of this composite image, shows that the standard rear axle ratio with the 2,780-pound, 1,260 kilogram rear axle was 4.11 to 1 non-locking, with 4.57 to 1 non-locking being optional. The same 4.11 to 1 and 4.57 to 1 non-locking rear axle ratios were available with the optional 3,300-pound or 1,500 kilogram rear axle. Limited slip was optionally available in 4.11 to 1 and 4.57 to 1 ratios for both rear axles. The lower table in this image is from page 12 of the 1966 Ford Bronco all-purpose vehicle sales catalog published in January 1966, and it reveals some mid-model year changes in rear axle availability for the Bronco. The 2,780-pound or 1,260 kilogram rear axle still came standard as a 4.11 to 1 non-locking unit with a 4.57 to 1 non-locking unit ratio optional. However, the 3,300-pound or 1,500 kilogram rear axle was now available with a 3.50 to 1 non-locking ratio in addition to the previously available 4.11 to 1 and 4.57 to 1 non-locking ratios. Limited slip was optionally available for all ratios on both rear axles. These tables reveal that there was also a mid-year change to the 2,500-pound or 1,135 kilogram front axle, as limited slip became available in all ratios in mid-March 1966, per the small triangle after the word hubs in the lower table. Please note that optional free-running hubs were required in order to have a front axle with limited slip. As for the brakes, front brake drums were 11-inch or 28 centimeter diameter by 2 inches or 5.1 centimeters in width, while the rear brake drums on the 2,780-pound or 1,260-kilogram axle were 10 inches or 25 centimeters in diameter and 2.5 inches or 6.5 centimeters wide, and 11-inch or 28 centimeters diameter by 1 3/4 inches or 4.4 centimeters width on the 3,300-pound or 1,500-kilogram rear axle. Finishing up with the bottom of page 4 of the press release, we have chassis features. The Bronco front suspension combines extreme ruggedness with superior anti-dive characteristics, even under panic stop conditions. Continuing with page 5 and 6 of the press release, the chassis features continue in the top paragraph on page 5 as follows. This is achieved through a tubular beam axle located by forged steel radius rods and track bar. Because the radius rods transmit the braking and driving force and the track bar maintains axle alignment, coil springs are utilized for optimum riding comfort. Front shock absorbers are mounted to the radius arm for maximum control. This graphic from the top of page 6 of the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog, published in August 1965, shows Bronco's mono-beam suspension and describes it like this. Bronco's mono-beam front-end suspension provides the finest riding quality of any vehicle of its type without sacrificing cross-country mobility and maneuverability. This is accomplished through the use of easy riding coil springs and sturdy forged steel radius rods that attach the axle to the frame, insulated by heavy rubber bushings which absorb shock. A forged steel 1-inch or 2.5 centimeter diameter track bar extending across the front provides lateral stability. Monobeam suspension permits a low profile and a better-looking four-wheel drive vehicle than would otherwise be possible. The chassis features continue in the second paragraph on page 5 as follows. A new 37-degree turn front axle is used on the Bronco to provide minimum turning diameter. Even with its 92-inch or 234-centimeter wheelbase, a Bronco can be turned in a 34-foot or 10.4-meter circle, curb to curb. The literature shows that the actual turning radius rating of the Bronco was a bit narrower at 33.5 feet or 10.2 meters. The third paragraph on page 5 continues the chassis features, stating, the rear springs of the Bronco are semi-elliptic leaf design, featuring Ford's taper leaf configuration for minimum harshness. Optional heavy-duty single-stage springs also are available for maximum loads. Rear shock absorbers are mounted outboard, and both rear and front shocks operate with constant velocity fluid. These graphics from the bottom of page 6 of the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog, published in August 1965, show Bronco's shock absorbers and leaf-type rear springs. The shock absorbers are described as 4 double-action telescopic shock absorbers featuring all-weather multi-viscosity fluid are provided as standard equipment on the Bronco. Rear shock absorbers are outboard mounted. The verbiage for the rear springs is, single-stage rear mainsprings are built to give both durability and a smooth ride. The long, wide design of single-stage rear springs provides unusual stability and sturdiness. The chassis features section of the press release concludes with this fourth paragraph on page 5, which reads, the Bronco frame is of box section construction through its entire length, as are front and rear crossmembers. 8 rubber cushions effectively insulate the Bronco body from chassis and road noise. This graphic from the top of page 6 of the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog, published in August 1965, shows the Bronco's frame and describes it like this. Solid and tough frame. Ford's Bronco has plenty of backbone. The frame is a complete box section through its entire length. Front and rear cross members are of box section construction and are welded to the side rails and reinforced with gussets to maintain frame alignment and provide extra strength. The press release concludes with the Other Features section on pages 5 and 6. I'm not going to read that text, so I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. I created this graphic of the 1966 Ford Bronco underside to show and clearly identify all of the components discussed in this section of the video. In the graphic, you can see the number 1, engine, number 2, transmission, number 3, transfer case, number 4, rear axle, number 5, front axle, number 6, rear leaf springs, number 7, rear shock absorbers, number 8, front coil springs and shock absorbers, number 9, front radius rods, number 10, front track bar, number 11, steering gearbox, number 12, fuel tank, and finally number 13, the frame. For Section 4, Press Event Remarks, this is contest question number 4. In what Michigan town did Ford Motor Company Vice President and Ford Division General Manager Donald N. Frey give the 1966 Ford Bronco press event remarks? This photo shows a 1966 Ford Bronco on stage at the Bronco's introduction to the press at a hotel in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, on Wednesday, August 11th, 1965. The horse, cowboy, and cowgirl theme of the festivities are pretty clear. A number of Ford Broncos were staged in the hotel hallway for the journalists to inspect. Not surprisingly, this Roadster is equipped with a large number of options, including a 2-person rear bench seat, a front power takeoff, front bumper-mounted 0 to 8,000 pound or 3,625 kilogram winch, right-hand fender-mounted rearview mirror, dual-padded sun visors, manual AM radio and left-hand fender-mounted antenna, accent paint stripe, rocker panel racing stripes, white wall tires, and wheel covers. The second photo shows the standard folding windshield resting on top of the hood-mounted locking bracket, but not actually secured in place. Donald N. Frey, Ford Motor Company Vice President and Ford Division General Manager, is seen here giving remarks to the assembled journalists at the Bloomfield Hills Hotel. These are Mr. Frey's remarks delivered that day. The remarks are interesting, but in the interest of video length, I'm not going to read any of the text, so I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. Same thing with pages 3 and 4. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds. Again with pages 5 and 6. I'll stop talking for 5 seconds. And finally with page 7, I'll stop talking again for 5 seconds. For Section 5, Press Drive Event, this is contest question number 5. What is the highest windshield mounted identification number on one of the Press Drive Event 1966 Ford Broncos seen in the photos? After the ceremonies inside the Bloomfield Hills Hotel concluded, the journalists were invited to drive a fleet of brand new 1966 Ford Broncos, the approximately 30 miles or 48 kilometers to Ford's Michigan Proving Ground, or MPG, in Romeo, Michigan. This gave the automotive press an opportunity to get some on-road and off-road Bronco drive time under their belts. The first 8 photos show a variety of Bronco Roadsters, sports utilities, and wagons in different colors and with different options, staged in the hotel's parking lot, ready for the journalists' upcoming drive. Just look at all those pristine Broncos. Wow. Each journalist left the hotel parking lot in a Bronco and drove to MPG. Once there, the Broncos were parked and the guests were fed under large tents. With the meal over, instructions were given, and the journalists then had the opportunity to drive a Bronco around rough dirt paths on MPG property. Note that many of the Roadsters had the optional vinyl convertible top and doors installed for protection from the elements, just in case it had rained. Each Bronco had its own individually numbered sign in the lower right-hand corner of the windshield. The highest number visible in any of these photos is 49. This means that there were at least 49 new Broncos available for the press to drive. The high temperature in Detroit that day was 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees C, with low humidity and mostly clear skies, pretty much perfect for the activities Ford had organized. Ford had arranged some nice giveaway prizes for some of the journalists in attendance to win. In these photos we can see 2 FoMoCo television sets with companion batteries, along with a number of large and small FoMoCo radios, all brand new in their boxes. Remember that FoMoCo was a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company at the time. I was unable to find information for 1966, but the 1967 Ford accessory sales catalog lists the FoMoCo television as FoMoCo part number C5AZ18804-A and described it as powerful all-channel, including UHF, entertainment for car, home, or beach, all transistorized for fine reception. The TV cost $169.95 for the 1967 model year, which is equivalent to $1,640 in 2024. Let's have a quick look at the small boxes being held by 2 of the men in the photo. Isolating the 2 images and rotating them, we can see the following verbiage on the boxes. Nylint, number 8200 Bronco, a rugged all-purpose truck, made in USA, and Nylint toys for those who want the best. This is exactly what they're holding. Inside the cardboard box is a red Bronco Roadster with a fold-down windshield, produced by Nylint Toys from Rockford, Illinois. This number 8200 Bronco really is a good representation of the actual vehicle, other than the black bucket seats and wide white wall tires. For Section 6, Newspaper Articles and Advertisements, Part 1, this is contest question number 6. What date did the first official FoMoCo advertisement that included the 1966 Ford Bronco appear in the Lansing State Journal newspaper? After Ford released the teaser press release about the upcoming 1966 Bronco on Wednesday, April 28, 1965, these 3 newspaper articles at left, center, and right, plus the 1 dealership ad at right center, appeared in newspapers in Arizona, California, and Utah between Friday, April 30th and Sunday, May 30th. The information presented is taken directly from the teaser press release, either verbatim or in condensed form. These 6 articles about the 1966 Ford Bronco press reveal on Wednesday, August 11, 1965, appeared in Michigan newspapers that same day and the day after, Thursday, August 12th. The articles state that the Bronco will be available in Ford's 6,400 dealer showrooms in late September 1965. These 2 articles appeared in Michigan papers on Thursday, September 23, 1965. The blurb on the left states that Ford announced the 1966 Bronco prices at $2,194 for the Roadster, $2,264 for the sports utility, and $2,398 for the wagon, with a $1965 being worth $9.55 in 2024. These prices are equivalent to $20,950 for the Roadster, $21,625 for the sports utility, and $22,900 for the wagon today. This ad entitled Ford Bronco on Display Now in Our Showroom appeared in the Traverse City Record Eagle newspaper out of Traverse City, Michigan on Thursday, September 23, 1965, and touts the fact that the 66 Bronco was on display in the showroom of Grand Traverse Auto in Traverse City. The 1966 Ford product lines were officially available to the public for purchase on Friday, October 1st, 1965, so the Bronco was apparently available at some dealerships earlier than this date. This ad entitled 1966 Thrill of a Lifetime Fords for Total Performance and featuring a Bronco sports utility appeared in the Daily Journal newspaper from Franklin, Indiana on Thursday, September 30th, 1965, the day before all the new 1966 Fords went on sale. This ad is for Vandiver Ford sales in Franklin. Also on Thursday, September 30th, this ad entitled The Curtain Goes Up from Les Arkenberg Ford appeared in the Gardena Valley News out of Gardena, California. The ad shows a Bronco Roadster at top and a wagon below. This ad entitled The Ford Division is Proud to Announce the Grand Opening of Paul Miller Ford, showing a Bronco wagon, appeared in the Lexington Herald newspaper from Lexington, Kentucky on Friday, October 1st, 1965. All of the ads we've seen so far were created by individual dealerships. The first official FoMoCo advertisement that I could find that included the 1966 Bronco is this one entitled Total Excitement in 49 New Total Performance Fords for 66 that appeared in the Lansing State Journal newspaper out of Lansing, Michigan on Friday, October 29th, 1965, exactly 4 weeks post-introduction of the 66 Fords. The ad shows a Bronco Roadster and was sponsored by 2 Lansing area Ford dealerships, Jack Dykstra and Max Curtis. For Section 7, Motor Trend Magazine, September 1965, first 66 Detroit test, Ford's new Bronco. This is contest question number 7. How many seconds did it take for the test 1966 Ford Bronco to run from 0 to 45 miles per hour, or 72 kilometers per hour, in Motor Trend's testing? The front cover of the September 1965 issue of Motor Trend magazine shows that it contains an article about the Bronco, based on the Driving Ford's 66 Bronco pronouncement. Page 8's Spotlight on Detroit has this blurb about the utility sports car being the next new vehicle type on the auto horizon, and the fact that Ford was entering that market with the new 1966 Bronco. This 6-page article entitled First 66 Detroit Test, Ford's New Bronco, ran on pages 34 through 39. Here we have pages 34 and 35 showing a Bronco wagon with text. The second paragraph of the article reads, "We flew back to Ford's proving grounds early in June 1965 to drive 2 prototype models, neither one embodying all the features that'll be on the final offerings. From what we saw and felt, it looks like Ford has hit the nail on the head again." That's a strong assessment for a brand new vehicle line. I do want to correct the statement made that these were prototype models, as the light-colored sport utility is actually pre-production unit 091 that we saw in Section 2. The PP unit number 091 stenciled on the windshield and backlight, as well as the 1965 Michigan manufacturer's plate 12M932, can be seen in this additional photo from Motor Trend's photo shoot. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. The article continues on page 36 and 37 with images and text. Part of the first full paragraph on page 37 states, "The transmission tunnel carries a second shift lever, the one that operates the transfer case. Neutral position is for operating the optional takeoff or winch. You have to depress the button on the shift knob before the lever moves, a good feature that eliminates an unwanted shift if someone accidentally bumps the stick." This is the first mention we've seen of a locking feature on the black knob transfer case shift lever. This means that the change to the T-bar transfer case shift lever with thumb-operated lock button partway through the 1966 model year was a change to an improved locking shift lever and not a change from a non-locking shift lever to a locking one. The second paragraph on page 37 begins with Motor Trend lamenting the fact that a 260 cubic inch or 289 cubic inch V8 engine wasn't offered in the Bronco yet. The text goes on to state that in truck application, the 6 uses solid lifters. This is the first mention of the 170 cubic inch one-barrel inline-6 engine having solid lifters in lieu of the hydraulic lifters used in this engine when installed in passenger cars. Described as a quite peppy performance, 0 to 30 miles per hour, or 0 to 48 kilometers an hour, took 5.5 seconds. 0 to 45 miles per hour, or 0 to 72 kilometers an hour, took 11.5 seconds. 0 to 60 miles per hour, or 0 to 97 kilometers an hour, took 21.2 seconds. And the quarter mile took 21.5 seconds with a 62 mile per hour or 100 kilometer an hour speed crossing the line. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. The article wraps up on pages 38 and 39 with the final paragraph stating, "The utility vehicle market captured 10,000 sales in 1960. This number rose to 40,000 units last year, 1964, with a predicted 70,000 sales by 1970. From our point of view, it looks like Ford has built a better mousetrap by hitting all goals squarely dead center. From the comfort and convenience angles alone, the Bronco shines. But most important, it isn't a chore to drive." So, the utility vehicle market was growing quickly, and Motor Trend felt that Ford had a winner with their new 1966 Bronco. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. These are some additional photos of the Bronco Roadster and Wagon used during Motor Trend's time with these 1966 Bronco pre-production units at Ford's Dearborn Proving Ground, or DPG, in Dearborn, Michigan. The Roadster is shown driving on the test track and climbing a grass-covered hill, while the top 2 interior photos and the engine compartment photo are of the Bronco Wagon. Notice that the interior photo of the Roadster being driven on the track, that pre-production unit 091 still has a Falcon horn ring. Also visible in the Wagon engine compartment photo is a sticker on the 170 cubic inch one-barrel inline-6 engine that appears to show E&F engine number X6T-170-2-8 experimental. E&F would stand for FoMoCo's Engine and Foundry Division. X6T indicates that it is an experimental 1966 truck engine, and 2-8 is perhaps some type of engine design iteration number or date code. For Section 8, 1966 Ford Bronco promotional film, A Breed Apart, this is contest question number 8. What paint color is the 1966 Ford Bronco Wagon with the optional snowplow shown in the video? I'm very excited to be able to share with you this 1966 Ford Bronco promotional film entitled A Breed Apart, presented by the Ford division of Ford Motor Company. This 11-minute and 32-second film features Bronco Roadsters, sports utilities, and wagons in a variety of paint colors being driven in all sorts of country and in-town settings. It's likely that this film was shot in the spring and or summer of 1965, as some of the Broncos shown have non-production features, such as a 1965 Ford F-Series gas pedal, non-white radiator grills, non-standard or no outside rearview mirrors, missing bulkhead behind the front bench seat or front bucket seats that necessitated a tailgate-mounted spare wheel and tire that should be bulkhead mounted, black window frames instead of body-colored, incorrect seat belts, horn ring with embossed Falcon letters, and black padded sun visors instead of silver gray. Enjoy! Hey folks, it's Adrian again. So it turns out that YouTube wouldn't allow me to use the Ford promotional film in this video because there were two pieces of music in it that just happened to be copyrighted. Drat. The music in question is awesome 1960s symphony work that provides a dramatic soundtrack for the film. As a workaround, I've deleted the Ford soundtrack from their film, and instead you'll hear me mimicking the original narrator from 1965. Oh, by the way, I determined that much of the film was shot in and around Heber City, Utah. Please comment if you recognize the location of any of the scenes in the Ford film. Enjoy. Far below the rim of the Grand Canyon lies an adventure few men have experienced. Shooting the rapids of the Colorado River, here over rocks that can slice a boat in two, the surging onrush of water forms the most treacherous, most powerful rapids of all. The man who has the courage, the stamina, and the skill to conquer this deadly stretch of water stands tall, and above the crowd, a breed apart. His adventure will never be forgotten. An adventure that started when he climbed into the vehicle that brought him down to the canyon floor, a vehicle that, in its own way, is also a breed apart. The Bronco, a totally new concept in transportation, and versatility is its middle name. The Bronco is a roadster, wide open, all fun and adventure. The Bronco is a sports utility, ready for any kind of action, with a roof that is removable. With a full roof, the Bronco is a snappy wagon, well suited for work or play, excellent as a family car, and the wagon roof is also removable. The Bronco is more than just another new vehicle. It's an all-purpose utility car with four-wheel drive power and traction, built to go wherever there's a foothold. Tough, strong, and dependable. Yet it has a style as modern as tomorrow, plus all the comforts and conveniences of more conventional cars. It's right at home in the bustle of the city, or out in the open where there are no roads. Bronco's broad stance gives good stability off the road, a smooth and even ride on the road. With a short turning diameter of less than 34 feet, Bronco can outmaneuver anything in the utility car field. And with its exceptional underbody clearance, Bronco will go up and over where others will hang up. The Bronco is also the champion weightlifter in its class. An optional heavy-duty package, rear axle springs and tires, add even more brawn. The Bronco's standard engine is the 170 cubic inch 6 with a horsepower rating of 105. This performance-proved engine, matched with a fully synchronized 3-speed manual transmission, powers a drivetrain that includes a 2-speed transfer case with advanced through-drive design. Unlike the offset design of other makes, when operating the Bronco in conventional two-wheel drive, power flows from the engine into the transmission and straight through the 2-speed transfer case, directly to the rear axle. When four-wheel drive is selected, the transfer case directs power to the front axle as well. Straight-through design increases gear life, reduces gear whine, and delivers efficient selected power. Power for climbing. Power for towing. Power for passing. With optional free-running front hubs, gear drag and wear are practically eliminated. And it has the cruising speed for highway driving. Yet Bronco's standard six-cylinder engine gets 11% better fuel economy than four-cylinder engines of other 4x4s. Here's something else Bronco has more of: usable space. Its body is wider and deeper than other utility cars. Bronco's tailgate opening is up to 20 inches wider than others in its class. It can be open or closed with one hand. With its many refinements and features, the Bronco will carry you in style no matter where you're going. The standard full-width seat will take 3 people with room to spare. There's comfort in the extra room the Bronco's flat floor provides. There's convenience and safety in the location of the Bronco's suspended pedals, and in the location of the single power transfer lever. There's convenience in the passenger car location of the gear shift, and in the effortless shifting of gears, even when downshifting into low, because all gears are fully synchronized. The instrument panel beneath the standard padded dash is attractive as well as functional, with needle gauges for ammeter, oil pressure, temperature, and fuel readings. Riding comfort is another important Bronco feature. Matchless riding comfort provided by monobeam front suspension, an innovation in design, with coil springs to cushion the ride, and forged steel radius rods insulated at each end to sponge up shock, vibration, and road noise. Unique monobeam suspension gives an exclusive car-like ride to the Bronco. The new Bronco, sporty, crisp, sharp, outside and in. For those who want extra luxury, optional front bucket seats, contoured and deeply padded, and a 2-passenger rear seat available. Other options include a radio, padded sun visors, armrests, and many more. By simply adding a vinyl top, the Bronco becomes a convertible. For special jobs, the Bronco can be equipped with such items as snowplow blades. When equipped with power takeoff, the Bronco can be used to operate winches, as well as other auxiliary equipment. And like other Ford passenger cars, the Bronco is sold with a 2-year or 24,000-mile warranty. The Bronco is suited for many uses: fun, work, or transportation. It also opens up a new world of pleasure and activities. Activities such as 4x4 rallies, where excitement and competition are key. We'll see a new kind of action and performance as more and more Bronco owners join Bronco busting clubs. The new world of Bronco covers 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. During hunting season, the Bronco will take you where the game is and pack it back to camp. In the fishing season, the Bronco will go beyond the end of the road to remote spots where the fish are game and plentiful. When the camping season is on, the Bronco will really take you off the beaten path, away from the crowd. And it's always open season on weekend fun with the Bronco, a motorized hike, an exploring trip, or a picnic. Yes, Bronco is suited for many purposes. For ranchers to roam the range, for dependable, good-looking family transportation, for rough work in rugged terrain, an errand to run, or for recreation of all kinds. The Bronco is a vehicle of 1,001 uses. Whatever your need may be, whatever pleasures you seek, you'll find the Bronco is the most durable, most dependable, most comfortable, and the most versatile vehicle of its kind. A breed apart from anything you have ever known before. For Section 9, 1966 Ford Carfax book, this is contest question number 9. What was the 1966 Ford Bronco standard GVW, or gross vehicle weight? The undated 1966 Ford Carfax book contains very detailed information for salesmen about each model in the Mustang, Falcon, Fairlane, Ford full-size, and Thunderbird vehicle lines. Also included in the Carfax book for the first time are sections for the light trucks, namely Ranchero, Econoline, Bronco, F-150, F-250, and F-350. Normally this information was presented only in the truck data book, but FoMoCo had realized that truck sales to those people not normally considered truck folks were growing rapidly year over year, and so they wanted car salespeople to be up to speed on the light trucks too, so that they could in turn sell light trucks. This first page, which is unnumbered, of the Bronco section of the 1966 Ford Carfax book, it has an index as well as sections covering standard equipment, miscellaneous, and carrying capacity equipment payloads. Let's have a closer look at the list of standard equipment, most of which has already been covered so far in the video. Notice that the only engine listed is the 170 cubic inch one-barrel, 105 horsepower inline 6, as these pages in the Carfax book are likely from the beginning of the 1966 model year in September 1965, and therefore don't capture that the 289 two-barrel, 200 horsepower V8 engine was added to the Bronco lineup in early March 1966, as we'll see later in the video. It is interesting to note that the standard front axle is a 4.10 to 1 non-locking unit, while the standard rear axle is the 4.11 to 1 non-locking unit already discussed. So apparently the 0.01 to 1 difference between the front and rear axles didn't make a difference. The standard tires were 7.35 by 15 inch 4-ply rated PT, or passenger type, tubeless units. I'd also like to touch on the carry capacity equipment payloads table. It shows that the Bronco standard GVW was 3,900 pounds or 1,770 kilograms, allowing for a 1,045 pound or 475 kilogram payload in the Roadster, 840 pounds or 380 kilograms in the Sports Utility, and down to 770 pounds or 350 kilograms in the Wagon. However, choosing the optional heavy-duty package increased the GVW by 800 pounds or 360 kilograms up to 4,700 pounds or 2,130 kilograms. This had the benefit of increasing the payloads by almost that full 800 pounds or 360 kilograms, as the Roadster now had a payload of 1,775 pounds or 805 kilograms, the Sports Utility 1,575 pounds or 715 kilograms, and the Wagon 1,500 pounds or 680 kilograms. Notice that the recommended minimum rear tire size with the heavy-duty package was 8.15 by 15-inch 8-ply rated versus the standard 7.35 by 15-inch 4-ply rated tires. This is the second unnumbered page of the Bronco section that shows dimensions and curb weights. In the left-hand schematic, we can see the Bronco's 92-inch or 234-centimeter wheelbase and 152.1-inch or 386.3-centimeter overall length. The right-hand schematic shows the Bronco's 57.4-inch or 145.8-centimeter track and overall width of 68.8 inches or 174.8 centimeters. Strangely, the height to the top of the Roadster's windshield isn't shown, but the Sports Utility height is given as 70.7 inches or 179.6 centimeters, while the Wagon measures in slightly taller at 71.4 inches or 181.4 centimeters. Shown in the two schematics are the acronyms AA, GC, RBA, AD, and AC, whose definitions I have added in red text below the left-hand table. Looking at that table reveals the substantial increases across the board when the heavy-duty package was paired with optional 6.50 by 16-inch 6-ply rated truck-type tube tires. The right-hand table shows that the Bronco Roadster weighed 2,855 pounds or 1,295 kilograms. The Sports Utility rang in at 3,060 pounds or 1,390 kilograms, and the Wagon at 3,130 pounds or 1,420 kilograms. Simple calculations using the individual front and rear weights reveals that the Roadster had a 59% to 41% front to rear weight distribution. The Sports Utility was 58% to 42%, and the Wagon was 47% to 43%. We have already seen earlier in the video the information that is presented on Bronco pages 1 and 2, so I won't go into those details here. But I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video if you would like to read what's there. This is Bronco page 3 from the 1966 Ford Carfax book, and it shows about half of the standard and optional equipment for the Bronco. Looking at the front and rear axles section shows that the standard front axle was a Dana 30 unit, with a 2,500 pound or 1,135 kilogram capacity, while the standard and all optional rear axles were Ford pieces. Additionally, the transfer case section lists that it was a 2-speed Dana 20 unit. Looking at the heavy-duty equipment package, which raised the Bronco's GVW from the standard 3,900 pounds or 1,770 kilograms to 4,700 pounds or 2,130 kilograms, and included a 3,300 pound or 1,500 kilogram rear axle, 1,280 pound or 580 kilogram rear leaf springs in place of the standard 930 pound or 420 kilogram springs, and 8.15 by 15-inch 8-ply rated passenger type tubeless tires. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the remainder of the text if you would like to. The final page in the Bronco section is page 4, which shows the other half of the Bronco's standard and optional equipment. Let's look at the optional custom equipment package, which we haven't previously discussed. It included front and rear chrome bumpers, bright metal taillight bezels, right-hand and left-hand interior door armrests on Broncos with doors, an instrument panel-mounted cigar lighter, front and rear bright metal wheel covers, which, as already discussed, are not available with the optional 6.50 by 16-inch 6-ply rated truck-type tube tires, a chrome horn ring, and finally right-hand and left-hand padded sun visors. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the remainder of the text if you would like to. The final item I want to present from the 1966 Ford Carfax book is section H, page 1 from the engine portions, all about the 170 cubic inch one-barrel inline-six engine. Even though this page is from the car section and not the light truck one of the Carfax book, we have already determined that the horsepower, torque, and compression ratio values were the same between the car version of this engine and the Bronco version. Once again, these values are 105 horsepower at 4,400 RPM, 158 pound-feet of torque at 2,400 RPM with a 9.1 to 1 compression ratio. Please note that I have replaced hydraulic valve lifters with solid and automatic choke with manual to reflect those differences that the Bronco 170 one-barrel had with the automotive version. For Section 10, 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalogs, August 1965 versus January 1966, this is contest question number 10. What were the mileage and time limits of the warranty Ford provided with the 1966 Ford Bronco? In August 1965, FoMoCo published the 12-page 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog on the left. A revised version was released 5 months later in January 1966 on the right. We're going to run through the 12 pages of these sales catalogs and A, review any new information we haven't seen yet, and B, highlight the differences between the two. The sales catalog covers differ both in the photo used and the color of the word Bronco. Page 2 states that the Bronco is designed to go anywhere, designed to be versatile. It touts that the Bronco can be used for outdoor recreation, in-city errands, and ranching. There are no differences between the two sales catalog versions. Page 3 lists that the Bronco can be used for construction supervisors, service station owners, and rallying. Again, there are no differences between the two versions. Page 4 lists the 3 body styles available in the Bronco lineup, namely Roadster at the top, Sports Utility in the middle, and Wagon at the bottom. There are a couple of very minor wording differences in the Roadster and Sport Utility verbiage between the two sales catalog versions, and some color was added to the January 1966 one. Page 5 contains information about the Bronco's seating versatility, the 32.1 cubic feet or 910 liters of available space in the Bronco's rear cargo area, and the full-width tailgate with one-hand operated latch. There is a very minor text difference in the front bench seat section. In the front bucket seats part, silver gray vinyl fabric from August 1965 was changed to smooth finished vinyl fabric for January 1966. This change was likely precipitated by the addition of a pair of front left and right-hand parchment all-vinyl bucket seats to the Bronco's interior option list partway through the model year. More details on this subject later in the video. Comparing the front bench seat image with the bucket seats plus rear bench seat image from page 5 of the January 1966 sales catalog reveals a couple of facts. First, the standard 3-person front bench seat had a different vinyl pattern than the optional front bucket seats and 2-person rear bench seat. Second, the rear bench seat was only available in the bucket seat pattern and not in the front bench seat pattern because the rear bench seat was only available with either a left-hand front bucket seat or left-hand and right-hand front bucket seats. The orange color was removed from the seat images in the January 1966 version of page 5 to make the seats easier to distinguish from the rest of the drawing. Page 6 has information about Bronco's monobeam front suspension, the 8 heavy rubber cushioned body mounts securing the body to the frame, shock absorbers, and rear leaf springs. A few minor verbiage differences exist in the monobeam suspension and rear spring sections, and some color was added to the shock absorbers and rear spring sections. Page 7 contains information about the Bronco's turning, stability, brakes, and superior off-road ability, Very minor verbiage changes were made in the January 1966 brakes and off-road ability sections. And the 6.50 by 16-inch tire column for the International Scout was removed from the comparison table. The colors in the top middle and top right images were also modified slightly. Page 8 contains details about the Bronco's engine, synchronized 3-speed manual column shift transmission, 2-speed transfer case, and its single shift lever. There are two major differences between the August 1965 version of page 8 and the January 1966 version. First and foremost, the January 1966 sales catalog shows the addition of an optional engine for the Bronco, a 289 cubic inch V8 engine with a 2-barrel carburetor rated at 200 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and 282 pound-feet of torque at 2,400 RPM with a 9.3 to 1 compression ratio. This engine can be identified by an N in the fourth position of the Bronco's VIN. Interestingly, this update was published in January 1966 and references that the engine wouldn't actually be available in the Bronco until mid-March of that year. Ford must have been eager to get word out to potential customers that a more powerful engine than the standard F-Code 171-barrel inline 6 that generated 105 horsepower was indeed on its way. These color photos show a 289 2-barrel V8 engine in the engine compartment of a 1966 Bronco. The accordion-style upper radiator hose is unusual on a Ford vehicle, perhaps indicating that an upper radiator hose designed for the 66 Bronco 289 V8 had not yet been engineered and released for production. Judging by the look on his face and the body language of Donald Frey, Ford Motor Company Vice President and Ford Division General Manager, as he stands beside a Bronco engine compartment stuffed with a 289 2-barrel V8, he was apparently pretty excited about the new availability of V8 power in the Bronco lineup. The second major change on page 8 concerns the single shift lever for transfer case. We've already touched on the shift lever change from the locking black knob handle to the locking T-bar handle earlier in the video, but expanding the scope here to include the transfer case may shed more light on what actually precipitated this change. The final sentence of the August 1965 single shift lever for transfer case verbiage on the left states, "Also, the Bronco transfer case incorporates an exclusive safety feature that prevents jumping out of four-wheel drive on steep grades." This sentence was removed and doesn't appear in the January 1966 transfer case blurb on the right. Meanwhile, the final sentence of the January 1966 shift lever verbiage is new. It wasn't in the August 1965 version. That sentence reads, "Transfer case T-bar shift lever provides a positive lock to prevent transfer case from possibly jumping out of four-wheel drive." This leads me to conclude that the black knob handle and the exclusive safety feature in the August 1965 transfer case wasn't up to the task of always keeping four-wheel drive engaged, and so the shift lever was changed to a T-bar handle with thumb-operated lock button to become the control point. Finally, on page 8, there is a very minor verbiage change to the 3-speed transmission section, and color was added to the 3 small images at the bottom of the page in the January 1966 version. Page 9 has information about the Bronco's frame, underneath protection, front and rear axles, as well as the standard 24,000-mile or 24-month warranty, touted as the best warranty of any vehicle of its type. The verbiage about the frame was modified slightly to allow for the insertion of a text box stating that lubrication, oil, and oil filter change were required only every 6,000 miles under normal operating conditions. In the protection underneath section, the term truck type was added as a descriptor for the 6.50 by 16-inch 6-ply rated tube tires, and the front and rear axle section had a minor verbiage tweak. Page 10 contains details about available dealer-installed accessories for the Bronco and lists the contents of the factory-optional custom equipment group. The only differences between the two sales catalog versions on this page are a minor verbiage change about the custom equipment package and some color changes in the 6 small images to improve the visual impact. Page 11 has more information about dealer-installed accessories, plus details about standard convenience features, factory-installed options, and auxiliary equipment. The revisions in the January 1966 version are mostly minor, as follows. The ICC, or Interrupt Clearance Circuit, Emergency Light Flasher Unit, was removed from the standard convenience features and added to the Other Popular Factory-Installed Options box as ICC lamp flashers with an asterisk note stating, included at extra cost unless otherwise specified, meaning that the emergency flashers could be deleted from installation in the vehicle for a credit. The verbiage in the snowplow section was adjusted. Door storage compartment was removed from the list of options in the Also section. Rear seatbelts was removed from the Other Popular Factory-Installed Options box. Auxiliary 12-gallon fuel tank available May was added to the Other Popular Factory-Installed Options box. As seen on other pages, colors in the 5 images were modified to improve the visuals. Page 12 shows the Bronco's dimensions, which have already been covered, and major specifications. The steering entry in both specifications tables shows that the steering box was a Gemmer worm and roller unit. There are a number of changes in the specifications table as follows. Axle front. The addition of a limited slip option with optional free-running hubs also required, available in mid-March 1966 per the triangle note indicator and note. Axle rear. The addition of a 3.50 to 1 non-locking ratio to the optional 3,300 pound or 1,500 kilogram rear axle, and the addition of a 3.50 to 1 limited slip ratio to both the standard 2,780 pound or 1,260 kilogram rear axle and the optional 3,300 pound or 1,500 kilogram rear axle, all changes in the optional column. Clutch. The addition of 11-inch diameter clutch with 289 two-barrel V8 engine to the standard column. Engine. The addition of 289 two-barrel V8 engine available mid-March to the optional column. Springs front. The addition of 850 pound or 385 kilogram with V8 and 950 pound or 430 kilograms with V8 to standard and optional columns respectively. Springs rear, a change from single stage for both standard and optional to progressive for standard and single stage for optional. The 11 standard colors on page 12 from August 1965 are the exterior paint colors available on the Bronco. They are listed as Raven Black, color code A, Wimbledon White, color code M, Rangoon Red, color code J, Arcadian Blue, color code F, Springtime Yellow, color code 8, Sahara Beige, color code H, Marlin Blue, color code W, Holly Green, color code L, Caribbean Turquoise, color code B, Chrome Yellow, color code G, and Pure White, color code C. The standard colors on page 12 from January 1966 lists a total of 13 Bronco paint colors, composed of 10 of the 11 colors from the August 1965 list. Pure White, color code C, was dropped, plus 3 new colors: Peacock Blue, color code D, Light Turquoise, color code N, and Poppy Red, color code S. Interestingly, the word almost was added to the heading, a network of 6,400 Ford dealers to serve you and your Bronco, so that it matched the almost 6,400 Ford dealers verbiage in the paragraph below the heading. The initial publication dates of these sales catalogs are shown as 8/65 for August 1965 on the left, and Rev 1/66 for revision January 1966 on the right. For Section 11, Buyer's Digest of New Car Facts for 1966 Sales Catalog, this is contest question number 11. What was the only interior color available on the 1966 Ford Bronco when it was introduced in August 1965? The Buyer's Digest of New Car Facts for 1966 sales catalog contains very detailed information for potential customers about the Ford Falcon, Mustang, Fairlane, Ford Full-Size, Thunderbird, Falcon Club Wagon, and Bronco vehicle lines. This piece of literature is undated other than stating copyright 1966 on the front cover. Information included in the Buyer's Digest includes series, body styles, engines, transmissions, optional equipment, paint colors, interior trims, etc. Pages 56 and 57 cover the three Bronco models with a wagon and sports utility shown at the top of page 56 and a Roadster at the bottom. The image of the wagon and sports utility was taken at the same photo shoot as the photo on the front cover of the revised 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog from January 1966. Extracting the cover photo from the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog and the wagon and sports utility photo from the Buyer's Digest allows for this side-by-side comparison. A closer look at these two photos reveals some retouching work going on here. Notice that the spare tires within the two green circles in the left-hand image are not present inside the two red circles in the right-hand image. Similarly, the 1966 license plate and frame in the green circle in the right-hand image are not present within the red circle in the left-hand image. All of the verbiage presented on the left side of page 57 has already been reviewed in the video. Only the 170 one-barrel inline-six 105 horsepower engine is mentioned in the text, so this edition of the Buyer's Digest must predate the introduction of the optional 289 two-barrel 200 horsepower V8 engine in early March 1966. The photo at the bottom left of page 57 shows the silver gray vinyl upholstery that was the only interior color available on the Bronco when it was introduced in August 1965. Taking a close look at the Roadster interior image at the bottom left-hand corner of page 57, the matching seating surface pattern between the front bucket seats and the rear bench seat can be clearly seen. The middle of the right-hand part of page 61 lists the base prices for the Bronco models, as well as the cost of some of the factory-installed equipment. Inexplicably, the base prices listed differ from those already seen in the newspaper article entitled Ford Bronco Prices Told from the Lansing State Journal in Lansing, Michigan on Tuesday, September 23, 1965. This side-by-side comparison shows that the newspaper listed a $2,194 base price for the Roadster versus $2,404.23 in the Buyer's Digest, a $210.23 or 9.6% increase. The paper showed a $2,264 price for the sports utility, while the Buyer's Digest was $2,479.93, a $215.93 or 9.5% increase. Finally, the newspaper listed $2,398 for the wagon versus $2,625.07 in the Buyer's Digest, a $227.07 or 9.5% increase. With a $1965 being worth $9.55 in 2024, the Buyer's Digest prices are equivalent to $22,960 for the Roadster, $23,685 for the sports utility, and $25,070 for the wagon. Page 63 of the Buyer's Digest shows the Bronco interior trim and paint color availabilities. The top silver gray vinyl trim sample with the pattern represents the standard three-person front bench seat. This photo of the standard three-person front bench seat is from a pre-production unit, and it shows the all-vinyl seat cover pattern in detail. Meanwhile, the silver-gray vinyl sample below that is for the optional left-hand bucket seat, the optional left-hand and right-hand bucket seats, and also the optional two-person rear bench seat. This photo shows the optional left-hand and right-hand bucket seats, and we can see that their seat cover material is different than that used on the standard three-person front bench seat. These bucket seats look just like the 1965 and 1966 Mustang front bucket seats. In this pre-production unit photo, you can see how the seat cover pattern on the standard three-person front bench seat doesn't match the seat cover pattern on the optional two-person rear bench seat. This mismatch wasn't an issue, as the combination of a front bench seat with a rear bench seat wasn't available in production, as there was no easy way to get from the front seating area to the rear one without the pass-through area that was created beside a left-hand front bucket seat or between left-hand and right-hand front bucket seats. The 9AMFH8JWLB letters above both samples are the color codes representing some of the paint colors available in the Bronco. The A is for Raven Black, M is for Wimbledon White, F is for Arcadian Blue, H is for Sahara Beige, 8 is for Springtime Yellow, J is for Rangoon Red, W is for Marlin Blue, L is for Holly Green, and B is for Caribbean Turquoise. The note below the second vinyl sample states, Broncos are also available with the following colors: Chrome Yellow, which is color code G, Pure White, color code C, Poppy Red, color code S, Peacock Blue, color code D, and Frost Turquoise, color code N, which was actually called light turquoise for the 1966 model year, and the same formula of paint was color code B, Frost Turquoise, for the 1967 model year. I will hereafter refer to color code N by the correct name of light turquoise. These additional 5 paint colors, when added to the previous 9, give a total of 14 paint colors available on the 66 Bronco, according to this piece of literature. Page 67 has printed paint samples for all of the car colors and most of the truck ones. While certainly less expensive than showing actual paint chips, unfortunately these printed paint samples are often quite different from the true color. Here I've highlighted the 5 Bronco paint colors that were shared with the cars at the top of the page, namely A, Raven Black, 8, Springtime Yellow, H, Sahara Beige, M, Wimbledon White, and F, Arcadian Blue. Also highlighted toward the bottom of the page are the 4 Bronco colors shared with the Falcon Club wagon, namely L, Holly Green, J, Rangoon Red, W, Marlin Blue, and B, Caribbean Turquoise. Not shown on page 67 are the 5 additional Bronco paint colors listed on page 63, namely G, Chrome Yellow, C, Pure White, S, Poppy Red, D, Peacock Blue, and N, Light Turquoise. For Section 12, 1966 Ford Cars and Trucks for Recreation Sales Catalog, October 1965, this is contest question number 12. What is the maximum trailer weight recommended for the 1966 Ford Bronco? The 1966 Ford Cars and Trucks for Recreation Sales Catalog was published in October 1965, and it contains towing and other recreation-related information for 1966 Ford Full-Size, Thunderbird, Fairlane, Falcon, Mustang, Ranchero, Bronco, F100, F250, F350, and Econoline vehicle lines. The 1966 Ford Bronco appears on page 12 with an image of a Bronco in the wild, some poetic text, and a towing recommendations table. The table shows that up to a 2,000-pound or 910-kilogram trailer can be towed by the Bronco with all standard equipment other than a recommended upgrade to the 3,300-pound or 1,500-kilogram heavy-duty rear axle with a 4.11-to-1 limited slip differential, which is a locking unit, and a heavy-duty 55 amp-hour battery. Some of you may have recognized that the image at the top of page 12 is the same one that I used as this video's cover page, almost. An above and below comparison of the two images reveals some more retouching here, as there are quite a number of differences between the two. I can find 9 differences. How many can you spot? The differences I see are as follows. Number 1, what appears to be a driver door outside mirror in the small circle in the top image is not in the bottom image. Number 2, the radiator grille FORD letters in the top image are black, but are red in the bottom image. Number 3, the mud on the leading bottom passenger side corner of the trailer in the bottom image is not in the top image. The white wall tires in the bottom image are black wall tires in the top image. Number 5, the black front hub in the bottom image is silver in the top image. Number 6, the child in the rear seat of the bottom image is not in the top image. Number 7, the black passenger door window frames in the bottom image are red in the top image. Number 8, the passenger door outside mirror and shadow in the bottom image are not in the top image. And finally, number 9, the driver door outside mirror in the bottom image is not in the top image. For Section 13, 1966 Ford Trucks and All-Purpose Vehicles Sales Catalog, January 1966, this is contest question number 13. What approximate date did this piece of literature state that V8 power would be offered in the 1966 Ford Bronco? The 1966 Ford Trucks and All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog contains information for potential customers about the Ford Ranchero, Bronco, Econoline, F-Series, T-Series, N-Series, C-Series, H-Series, school bus, and parcel delivery vehicle lines. This is the revised version published in January 1966. The top of page 3 is where the Bronco is listed as one of Ford's go-anywhere all-purpose vehicles, along with the Ford F-100 and F-250 4x4s. The images of the Bronco Sports Utility, left, Wagon, center, and Roadster, right, were recycled from pages 2 and 3 of the August 1965 and January 1966 versions of the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog, but the verbiage is different. The center blurb mentions the mid-March availability of V8 power, a nod to the 289 two-barrel 200 horsepower V8 engine that became available in early March 1966. For Section 14, Total Performance Accessories for 1966 Sales Catalog, this is contest question number 14. What was the cost back in the day for the optional light-duty power takeoff unit for the 1966 Ford Bronco? The Total Performance Accessories for 1966 Sales Catalog, issued sometime in 1966, is a 32-page compilation of dealer accessories for all Ford cars and trucks. Included options are items like wheel covers, floor mats, bumper guards, tonneau covers, locking gas caps, outside mirrors, and lots more. The Bronco first appears on page 20 on the left and page 21, and it has details about an optional trailer hitch, front tow hooks, a manual AM radio and antenna, a vinyl convertible top and doors, snow plows, front axle locking hubs, front auxiliary air springs, a passenger assist handle, and an exterior right-hand companion rearview mirror. This is what an optional snowplow looks like mounted to the front of a 1966 Ford Bronco. Bronco options continue on page 22 on the left and page 23. Shown are a power takeoff driven front winch, a fresh air heater defroster. Remember that the Bronco came standard without a heater or defroster. Wheel covers, front bumper guards, a compass, a litter basket, a tool kit, two-way radios, and a map light. Let's talk about the optional front winch for a moment. As already mentioned, the front bumper-mounted winch was driven by a power takeoff unit and had an 8,000-pound or 3,625 kilogram rated pull capacity. In order to equip your 66 Bronco with this option back in the day, the owner had to first purchase the light-duty power takeoff for $44.75 and then purchase the winch itself for $385, a total expenditure of $429.75 for the equipment, not including installation labor. With a $1965 being worth $9.55 in 2024, that $429.75 would cost a whopping $4,105 in today's money. Yikes. A Bronco Sports Utility appears on the back of the sales catalog. For Section 15, Shop Tips from Ford, Volume 3, Number 7, October 1965, this is contest question number 15. The 1966 Ford Bronco's constant velocity universal joints were also described as double what? The 1966 Bronco first appeared in the FoMoCo publication called Shop Tips from Ford in the Volume 3, Number 7 edition, issued in October 1965. We have already covered in detail the Bronco information that appears on pages 2 and 3 of the Shop Tips, so there's no need to go through these 2 pages. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. Pages 4 and 5 have in-depth information about the transfer case, with detailed explanation about its workings that covers the idler shaft gears, the high-speed gear, the rear output shaft, sliding gear and clutch, front output shaft, and the front output shaft and sliding gear. Descriptions are given about shift gears, the power flow for four-wheel drive low, two-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive high, optional free-running front hubs, and front axle drive. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. Page 6 has details about the Bronco's constant velocity double cardan universal joints, as well as 7 service tips for items such as clutch pedal adjustment, front wheel toe-in, lubrication, etc. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text if you would like to. For Section 16, 66 Ford Color and Trim Selections book, this is contest question number 16. What is the trim code for the optional silver gray front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats? The undated 66 Ford Color and Trim Selections book contains samples of the paint colors, interior trims, vinyl roofs, convertible tops, and carpets for the 1966 Mustang, Falcon, Fairlane, Ford Full-Size, Thunderbird, Falcon Club Wagon, Econoline, F100, F250, F350, Ranchero, and Bronco vehicle lines. Page 43 of the book has printed samples of the seating surfaces for the F100, F250, and Bronco. The Bronco Trims box lists the only available trim color as gray vinyl, and strangely not silver gray vinyl as previously seen in all the other literature. This edition of the Color and Trim Selections book must predate the introduction of the optional parchment bucket seats partway through the 1966 model year, as they are not mentioned. The printed trim sample on the right is for the standard 3-person front bench seat only, while the one on the left is for the optional left-hand or left-hand and right-hand front bucket seats and the optional 2-person rear bench seat. Page 41 of the book lists the available paint colors and interior trims in table format for the Bronco, Ranchero, F100, F250, F350, and Econoline vehicle lines. Taking a closer look at the Bronco color and trim table reveals that a gray, or silver gray, standard 3-person front bench seat was trim code 1. An optional front left-hand bucket seat in the same color was trim code 6, while optional front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats in the same color was trim code 7. The optional gray or silver gray rear bench seat was apparently not recorded in the trim code. Seeing as this edition of the Color and Trim Selections book predates the mid-year introduction of the optional front left-hand and right-hand parchment bucket seats, no trim code is shown here for them. We'll see later in the video that the optional parchment bucket seats were trim code 9. Again, the optional parchment rear bench seat was not recorded in the trim code. As for the Bronco's exterior paint colors, the table lists only 9 of them. The 9 listed colors are the same 9 that we've already seen shown on page 67 of the Buyer's Digest of New Car Facts for 1966. No mention is made in the Color and Trim Selections book about the 5 additional paint colors listed on page 63 of the Buyer's Digest, namely G chrome yellow, C pure white, S poppy red, D peacock blue, and N light turquoise. Page 41 of the Color and Trim Selections book shows actual paint samples for the light truck exterior color selections. The 9 paint colors shown in the Bronco table on page 41 are identified here with green highlights, while 2 of the 5 additional colors listed on page 63 of the Buyer's Digest are identified here with red highlights. Missing from these paint samples are the other 3 of the 5 additional colors, namely S poppy red, D peacock blue, and N light turquoise. For Section 17, 1960 to 68 Ford Car Parts and Accessories Catalog, and 1965 to 72 Ford Car Master Parts and Accessories Catalog, this is contest question number 17. What was the changeover date to the T-bar handle transfer case shift lever? There are a couple of items I want to dig into further using the Ford parts books. Let's begin with the text part of the 1960 to 68 Ford Car Parts and Accessories Catalog, Form AF7635-A. The 1966 soft trim, page A12, has the end of the Thunderbird interior trim codes, all the Bronco codes, and the beginning of the Falcon ones. This page was last revised in August 1966 at the very end of production for the 1966 model year. Looking at the Bronco interior trim codes, we see 4 listed, namely 1, 6, 7, and 9 for body types 96, which is a Bronco Roadster, 97, which is a sports utility, and 98, which is a wagon. The vinyl color for trim codes 1, 6, and 7 is listed as light silver mink and not silver gray or gray as previously seen. The interior trim color descriptions in the parts books are typically the real names for these colors, so we'll refer to the color of this vinyl as light silver mink from now on. The vinyl color for trim code 9 is listed as parchment. In the 66 Ford Color and Trim Selections book, we saw that trim code 1 is the standard light silver mink front 3-person bench seat. Trim code 6 is an optional light silver mink front left-hand bucket seat. And trim code 7 is optional light silver mink front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats. This means that trim code 9 must be for the optional parchment front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats that were introduced partway through the 1966 model year. Trim code 1 is described as light silver mink matchstick vinyl and light silver mink crinkle vinyl, which accurately describes the vinyl seat covering as seen in this pre-production unit. I will further expand this description as follows. Light silver mink matchstick pattern vinyl cushions and light silver mink crinkle grain vinyl bolsters and back. Let's correct a mistake in the Bronco trim descriptions. The inclusion of light silver mink matchstick vinyl at the beginning of the descriptions for trim codes 6 and 7 is patently incorrect, as the optional front bucket seat or seats did not use the bench seats matchstick pattern vinyl, but were composed of all crinkle grain vinyl. Therefore, I have struck out that verbiage, leaving light silver mink crinkle vinyl as the correct description for both trim codes 6 and 7. Trim code 7 can be seen in the interior photo of an early production Bronco wagon. I will further expand the description of the bucket seat interiors as follows. Light silver mink crinkle grain vinyl cushions, bolsters, and back. We have already determined that the optional rear two-person bench seat sew pattern matches that of the optional front bucket seats, so this new description applies to the rear bench seat as well. The next item to investigate in the parts book is the shift lever for the 2-speed transfer case, base part number 7210. Unfortunately, this same base part number was also used for the column-mounted transmission gear shift lever, which makes it more complex to figure out what's what. The pre-production units that we saw earlier both had optional front bucket seats and short transfer case shift levers. According to the 1966 Ford Car Parts and Accessories Catalog, form number FD7752-66, released in January 1966, page 248 lists base part number 7210 shift assembly transfer case and shows that that piece for the Bronco was FoMoCo part number C6TZ-7210-A. The suffix of A tells us that this is the first design iteration of a shift lever for a 1966 truck, so it is most likely that this part number is for the short shifter used initially on the 66 Bronco. Photos of early Broncos built after the pre-production units show a much longer shifter installed with the optional front bucket seats on the left and the standard 3-person bench seat on the right. An exhaustive search in individual year and multi-year parts catalogs and master parts catalogs, plus a variety of OSI, which stands for Obsolete Supersede Interchange catalogs, did not allow for a definitive determination of the part number for this longer shifter, but it may be C6TZ-7210-AH. Looking at current photos of 66 Broncos that are still in existence, it appears that from the beginning of production in the summer of 1965 through sometime in November 1965, Broncos with a standard 3-person front bench seat got the short transfer case shift lever FoMoCo part number C6TZ-7210-A, while those equipped with an optional front bucket seat or bucket seats got the long shift lever, which might be FoMoCo part number C6TZ-7210-AH. It then appears from sometime in November 1965 through a later date that all Broncos, regardless of front seat style, received the long shifter. I apologize for the uncertainty here, but it is a confusing subject with little literature support. A side-by-side comparison of the C6TZ-7210-A short shifter on the left with the long shifter, perhaps C6TZ-7210-AH on the right, shows the dramatic difference in length. Notice that the short shifter is paired with a bench seat, which conceptually makes sense as it would provide more room to any middle position passenger, though the further reach required to move the lever may not have been appreciated by the driver. This extra room wasn't required with the optional front bucket seat or seats like the Bronco on the right, so the long shifter, within easy reach of the driver's right hand, could be longer without issue. There is some information to be found in the parts book about the other transfer case shift lever change already discussed, and that is the change from the black knob shifter to the T-bar handled shifter with thumb-operated lockout button discussed in section 10 that compared the two 1966 Ford Bronco all-purpose vehicle sales catalogs. As stated then, the final sentence of the August 1965 single shift lever for transfer case verbiage on the left states, also, the Bronco transfer case incorporates an exclusive safety feature that prevents jumping out of four-wheel drive on steep grades. This sentence was removed and doesn't appear in the January 1966 transfer case blurb on the right. Meanwhile, the final sentence of the January 1966 shift lever verbiage is new. It wasn't in the August 1965 version. That sentence reads, "Transfer case T-bar shift lever provides a positive lock to prevent transfer case from possibly jumping out of four-wheel drive." This leads me to conclude that the black knob handle and the exclusive safety feature in the August 1965 transfer case wasn't up to the task of always keeping four-wheel drive engaged, and so the shift lever was changed to a T-bar handle with thumb-operated lock button to become the control point. Looking in the illustrations section of the 1965 to 72 Ford Car Master Parts and Accessories Catalog published in May 1975, Form FP7635-B, on page 6 of the section 72 has two drawings of the 1965 to 72 Bronco transfer case shift linkage. The upper drawing is identified as number P-5529 and shows the various parts in the Bronco's black knob transfer case shift lever and related linkage. The drawing description in the blue highlighted box states 1966 Bronco before serial 830001. This means that the drawing applies only to those 66 Broncos whose serial numbers, or VINs, have a numerical sequence of assembly, which is the last 6 digits of the VIN, less than 830001. We'll cover the numerical sequence of assembly in detail in Section 24, How to Decode 1966 Ford Bronco VINs and Production Data. But until we do, please accept that before serial 830001 means 1966 Ford Broncos built before March 1st, 1966. So this upper drawing with the black knob shift lever applies to Broncos built up until the end of February 1966. Okay, let's have a look at the lower drawing, which is identified as number P-5202 and shows the T-bar handled shift lever with the thumb-operated lock button. The drawing description in the blue highlighted area shows 1965/72 Bronco from serial 830001. Therefore, this drawing applies to 1966 Broncos built from March 1st, 1966 through the end of the model year 1966, as well as all 1967 through 1972 Broncos. That's a lot of Broncos. Now, there is further information of interest and relevance on this drawing. Looking at the drawing area and text that are shaded in butterscotch, we see that the T-bar handle transfer case shift lever with a rubber dust boot was used before serial number 877001. Referring once again to the numerical sequence of assembly table, we see that before serial number 877001 means 1966 Broncos built before about a third of the way through June 1966. Turning our attention to the drawing area and text shaded in pink, we see that Broncos from serial number 877001, so sometime after about a third of the way through June 1966, had a floor-mounted shift indicator quadrant in place of the rubber dust boot. The text portion of the 1960 to 68 Ford Car Parts and Accessories Catalog has information on page 6 of section 71 about base part number 7210, the transfer case shift lever assembly. This table corroborates the black knob to T-bar handle changeover date shown on page 6 of section 72 in the illustration section of the 1965 to 72 Ford Car Master Parts and Accessories Catalog as March 1st, 1966 by referencing the same serial 830001 cutoff point. It also shows that the latest design of the black knob shifter in use was FoMoCo part number C6TZ-7210-AH, which I have previously proposed as the long shifter handle. The T-bar handle transfer case shift lever is listed as part number C6TZ-7210-AN. Due to the mid-year introduction date, it was a challenge to find a period photo of the T-bar handled shifter, but this one shows most of it. For Section 18, 1966 Ford Truck Paint Chip Charts, Acme and DuPont, this is contest question number 18. What is the correct name for 1966 Ford Truck Color Code N? This is the Acme Automotive Finishes paint chip chart for 1966 Ford Truck and Frühhof trailer. Let's have a look at the Ford Truck section in the upper half, where a total of 16 paint colors are shown with their color codes to the left of the paint sample, and the applicable years and paint color name below the paint sample. Searching this page for the 9 paint colors shown on page 67 of the Buyer's Digest of New Car Facts for 1966, and the same 9 colors shown on page 41 of the 66 Ford Color and Trim Selections book, 8 of the 9 colors are highlighted in green. Inexplicably, color code A, Raven Black, is not shown on this chart. Searching this page for the additional 5 paint colors listed on page 63 of the Buyer's Digest, all 5 are highlighted in red. Notice that color code N is correctly listed as light turquoise and not frost turquoise like the Buyer's Digest. This is the first page of the DuPont paint chip chart for 1966 Dodge and Ford trucks, and this is the second page for 1966 Ford, Frühhof, and GMC trucks. Putting the 1966 Ford truck paint chips on the first page with the Ford chips from the second page results in this composite 1966 Ford truck paint chip chart. Highlighted in green are the 9 paint colors shown on page 67 of the Buyer's Digest of New Car Facts for 1966, and the same 9 colors shown on page 41 of the 66 Ford Color and Trim Selections book. And highlighted in red are the 5 paint colors listed on page 63 of the Buyer's Digest. Here again, notice that color code N is correctly listed as light turquoise and not frost turquoise like the Buyer's Digest. For Section 19, 1966 Ford Bronco paint colors, table, and large paint samples, this is contest question number 19. What is the FoMoCo mix code for color code G, chrome yellow? I created this table of 1966 Ford Bronco paint color codes, paint color names, FoMoCo mix code numbers, DuPont Deluxe codes, which were taken from the 1966 Ford Truck DuPont paint chip chart just reviewed, and the FoMoCo literature source, so that the confusing paint color situation that we've covered so far can be seen in one view. The color codes are arranged in alphanumeric order in the table. The only one of the 4 literature sources cited that listed all 14 paint colors as being available on the 66 Bronco was the Buyer's Digest sales catalog. Also shown in the table by the pale blue highlighting is that 9 of the paint colors were 1966 Ford truck only, while the tan highlighting shows that the remaining 5 colors were shared with the 66 Ford cars. This is large paint sample number 1 from the 66 Ford Color and Trim Selections book for color code A, Raven Black. I added the FoMoCo mix code number 1724-A to this image, along with the DuPont Deluxe code 93-005. Here we have large paint sample number 2 for color code B, Caribbean Turquoise, with FoMoCo mix code number 556-A, and DuPont Deluxe code 93-94121 added. Sample number 3 is color code C for pure white, FoMoCo mix code number 1525-A, and DuPont Deluxe code 93-95922. Here's paint sample number 4 for color code D, Peacock Blue, with FoMoCo mix code number 1638-A, and DuPont Deluxe code 93-96938 added. Sample number 5 is color code F for Arcadian Blue, FoMoCo mix code number 1226-A, and DuPont Deluxe code 93-94122. This is sample number 6, color code G for Chrome Yellow, which is FoMoCo mix code number 1526-A, and DuPont Deluxe code 93-95923. Here we have paint sample number 7, color code H for Sahara Beige, with FoMoCo mix code number 1912-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-97779 added. Sample number 8 is color code J for Rangoon Red, FoMoCo mix code number 1515-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-95616-H. Here's paint sample number 9 for color code L, Holly Green, with FoMoCo mix code number 1237-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-96787. Sample number 10 is color code M for Wimbledon White, FoMoCo mix code number 1619-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-96923. This is sample number 11, color code N for Light Turquoise, which is FoMoCo mix code number 1734-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-97326. Here we have paint sample number 12, color code S for Poppy Red, with FoMoCo mix code number 1730-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-97249-H added. Sample number 13 is color code W for Marlin Blue, FoMoCo mix code number 1742-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-97332. And finally, here's paint sample number 14 for color code 8, Springtime Yellow, with FoMoCo mix code number 1955-A and DuPont Deluxe code 93-97769. For Section 20, Newspaper Advertisements Part 2, this is contest question number 20. What date is the earliest newspaper advertisement found for the 289 cubic inch 2-barrel 200 horsepower V8 engine being available in the 1966 Ford Bronco? We've seen earlier in the video that the literature showed that the 289 2-barrel 200 horsepower V8 engine was to be added to the Bronco lineup as an additional engine in March 1966. Turning once again to newspaper advertisements, after the ones in late October 1965, I could find no other FoMoCo-produced Bronco-inclusive advertisements until these 3 on Tuesday, March 1st, left and middle ads, and Wednesday, March 2nd, right ad, in 1966. The left-hand ad, entitled New 66 Fords for Having Fun or Getting Jobs Done from Lutz Ford, shows a Bronco wagon and appeared in the Peninsula Times Tribune newspaper from Palo Alto, California. Please note that the verbiage lists only the 6-cylinder engine as being available. The middle ad, entitled Your Ford Dealer is Ready for Action, shows a Bronco wagon and appeared in the Billings Gazette paper out of Billings, Montana, for Archie Cochran Motors. The right-hand ad, entitled 1966 Fords for Work or Play from Schumann Houston Motor Company in Fredericksburg, Texas, shows a Bronco Roadster and appeared in the Fredericksburg Standard newspaper. Again, note that the verbiage lists only the 6-cylinder engine as being available. I mentioned that 2 of the 3 previous advertisements only listed the Bronco as having a 6-cylinder engine because just a few days later, on Friday, March 4th, 1966, this FoMoCo ad entitled Head for the High Country in a Ford Bronco 4-wheel drive states, Power is yours on demand from a spunky 6 or a new 200 horsepower V8. The ad from Spaniel Motors in Casper, Wyoming shows a Bronco Wagon and Roadster and appeared in the Casper Star-Tribune. March 4th, 1966 is the earliest advertising that I could find for the 289 cubic inch, 2-barrel, 200 horsepower V8 engine being available in the 1966 Bronco. For Section 21, Four-Wheeler Magazine, April 1966, V8s are here and Bronco is first. This is contest question number 21. What other Ford vehicle line also used the 1966 Ford Bronco's 289 fender emblem? The front cover of the April 1966 issue of Four-Wheeler Magazine shows that it contains an article about the Bronco based on the first four-wheel drive V8 Ford Bronco pronouncement. Despite this tagline being the largest font on the cover, the magazine went with a photo of the 1966 International Scout Sport Top on the cover instead. The brief two-page article entitled V8s are here and Bronco is first ran on pages 30 and 31 of the magazine. A photo of the new 289 two-barrel 200 horsepower V8 engine in a Bronco engine compartment appears at lower left on pages 30 and 31. If the accordion-style upper radiator hose looks familiar, it's because we've seen this photo earlier in the video, albeit in color, in Section 10, the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog Comparison section. A photo of a 289-equipped 66 Bronco Roadster appears at upper right of page 31. Barely discernible in the image is a 289 fender flag on the front fender to tell the observer that this Bronco has the optional 289 two-barrel 200 horsepower V8 and not the standard 170 cubic inch one-barrel 105 horsepower inline-six engine. This 289 emblem was already in use on the 1965 and 1966 Ford Mustang and is FoMoCo part number C3OZ-16228-B. As it turns out, the photo of this 289 powered Bronco Roadster has been retouched, as the original photo shows that there was no 289 fender emblem on the vehicle, so it's actually equipped with the standard 170 1V inline-six engine. Comparing the magazine photo on the left with the original photo on the right, we see that in addition to the 289 emblem being added to the magazine photo, the 1966 front license plate in the original photo was retouched to show the letters and numbers ES-5372 to appear like a real license plate. The 8-paragraph article appears at the bottom of page 31. The verbiage states that first among its competition, the Bronco was now available with an optional 289 cubic inch V8 engine with a 2-barrel carburetor that developed 200 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and 282 pound-feet of torque at 2,400 RPM with a 9.3-to-1 compression ratio. Special features that Broncoized the 289 two-barrel were a 6-quart oil pan to ensure adequate engine lubrication on the steepest grades, a special no-stall 2-barrel carburetor for hill driving, and an oil bath air cleaner, though the 289 engine shown in the article is sporting the optional dry element air cleaner that was the same as the standard air cleaner installed on 289 two-barrel equipped cars. The article continues with information about the 11-inch diameter clutch with 123.7 inches squared, or 800 centimeters squared, of facing area used with the 289 engine. The 170 one-barrel inline-six engine had a 9 3/8-inch diameter clutch with 81.5 inches squared, or 525 centimeters squared, of facing area. Ordering the 289 engine in the Bronco also netted front springs with 850-pound or 385-kilogram capacity, compared with 760 pounds or 345-kilogram capacity that were standard with the 170 1V engine. The article clarifies that the new 3.50 to 1 rear axle ratio previously discussed in Section 10, the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicles Sales Catalogs Comparison portion of the video, was added to the option list because it was the standard ratio with the 289 two-barrel engine. The optional rear axle ratio with the V8 was a 4.11 to 1 non-locking unit, which was the standard ratio with the 170 cubic inch inline six. The new T-bar handle transfer case shift lever with thumb-operated lock button was introduced at the same time as the V8 engine as standard equipment on all 66 Broncos. The article states that this change was made to provide a positive locking device to prevent the transfer case from jumping out of four-wheel drive on rugged terrain. So there must have been customer complaints for this problem with the original blackball transfer case shift lever as previously surmised. A limited slip front axle is stated to be available as a new option in 2 months, whereas the 1966 Ford Bronco All-Purpose Vehicle Sales Catalog revised in January 1966 said that it would be available in mid-March, as already covered earlier in the video. The final tidbit of information in the magazine article is that the new 289 two-barrel V8 engine would be available at Ford dealers on Wednesday, March 2nd, which compares very favorably with the first Bronco V8 newspaper ads from Friday, March 4th, 1966, as seen in the last section. The article concludes by stating that the day after dealership introduction, the Bronco V8's competition debut will take place at the four-wheel drive Grand Prix in Riverside, California. For Section 22, Motor Trend Magazine's September 1966 Buckin Bronco V8, this is contest question number 22. Near what California city was the four-wheel drive Grand Prix held? While the front cover of Motor Trend magazine from September 1966 doesn't mention the Bronco, inside on pages 48 and 50 we find an article entitled Buckin Bronco V8, all about the new 289 two-barrel, 200 horsepower V8 engine available in the Bronco as of early March 1966. Interestingly, the article begins by mentioning that the 1966 Bronco Sports Utility tested by Motor Trend was actually one of the V8 units that had competed in the four-wheel drive Grand Prix held near Riverside, California on March 3, 1966, as mentioned at the end of the Four Wheeler magazine article just seen. Notice in the photo of the 289 V8 engine in the lower left-hand corner of page 50 that the air cleaner is the standard oil bath type and not the optional dry element air cleaner seen in the Four Wheeler magazine article. Much of the tubing and hosing around the engine are the closed crankcase emission system and the exhaust emission control system, also known as thermactor emissions, both of which were mandatory anti-smog equipment required at the time on all California registered vehicles, like this one with California license plate SUJ129. There isn't much in the way of new content to review in this article, so I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds so that you can pause the video and read the text on page 48 if you would like to. Same thing with the text on page 50. I'll stop talking now for 5 seconds. While not appearing in the article, this picture was taken during the article photo shoot. The C3OZ-16228-B 289 fender flag discussed in the previous four-wheeler magazine section can be clearly seen on the Bronco's front fender, as can the SUJ129 California license plate, along with the optional body side accent paint stripe and chrome front bumper. These are some additional photos taken during Motor Trend's testing of the 289 V8 equipped 1966 Ford Bronco Roadster, showing it parked, driving, and tearing its way along a dirt road and up hills in the California countryside. In the interior photo at the bottom right of the fourth set of these additional photos, the new locking T-bar transfer case shift lever can just be seen between the bottom of the steering wheel and the horn ring. For Section 23, Ford Michigan Truck Plant and 1966 Ford Bronco production numbers, this is contest question number 23. How many total Ford Broncos were built during the entire 1966 model year? As stated in the newspaper article entitled Ford Bronco Bows that appeared in the Detroit Free Press in Detroit, Michigan on Thursday, August 12, 1965, the day after Ford's press introduction of the Bronco, Ford will produce about 18,000 Broncos by the end of this year. They will be made by Ford's Michigan Truck Plant in Wayne. Its current capacity is about 40,000 Broncos a year. All 1966 Ford Broncos were produced at the Ford Michigan Truck Plant, or MTP. This assembly plant is denoted by an L in the fifth position of the Bronco's VIN. As a matter of fact, all Broncos ever produced between 1965 and 1996 were built at MTP. More recently, the 2021 through 2024 Ford Broncos, except the Bronco Sport, are built at the same facility, although it was renamed the Michigan Assembly Plant, or MAP, when it began producing the 2011 Ford Focus lineup in December of 2010. The Ford Michigan Truck Plant is located at 38303 Michigan Avenue in Wayne, Michigan, and has zip code 48184. The plant is located on the south side of Michigan Avenue, 1¼ miles, or 2 kilometers, east of I-275, pretty much equidistant between South John Hicks Road and South Newburgh Road. This late 1960s or early 1970s era photo looking west on Michigan Avenue shows the Michigan Truck Plant on the left. This street view from Google Maps shows what MAP looked like in September 2023. It's rather fitting that a white 2024 Bronco is sitting on the display podium. The original MTP is contained within the now expanded building behind the parking lot. The new paint shop is the building with all of the ventilation stacks at the right-hand edge of the photo. This is a recent Google Maps satellite image of MAP and the surrounding FoMoCo facilities. I've added some information to the image so that you know what's what here. Number 1 is the now expanded original MTP, which is now the MAP Final Assembly Building. Number 2 is the new MAP Body Shop Building, while number 3 is the new MAP Paint Shop. Number 4 is the former Wayne Assembly Plant, and finally number 5 is the Wayne Stamping Plant. I was fortunate enough to work at MTP from August 2000 through November 2008 as the in-plant sealer, coatings, and adhesive senior technical service representative for my employer at the time, Dow Automotive Systems. Though the plant was producing the Ford Expedition and Lincoln Navigator while I was there, as a budding FoMoCo historian, it was not lost on me that I was working at the birthplace of the Bronco. What a rewarding time in my career that was, and I learned an incredible amount about vehicle assembly while I was there. The official production numbers for the 1966 Ford Bronco are as follows. Basic model code U13 and body type code 96, the Bronco Roadster, saw 4,090 units built. Basic model code U14 and body type code 97, the Bronco Sports Utility, saw 6,930 units built. Basic model code U15 and body type code 98, the Bronco Wagon, saw 12,756 units built. This gives a grand total of 23,776 Broncos built for the 1966 model year. Remember the newspaper article that we saw at the beginning of this section? The highlighted paragraph began with this statement: Ford will produce about 18,000 Broncos by the end of the year. With 23,776 Broncos actually produced for the 1966 model year, Ford surpassed their goal of 18,000 units for the 1966 model year by 5,776 units, or 32.1%. That must have pleased Donald L. Frey and the rest of Ford management immensely. For Section 24, How to Decode 1966 Ford Bronco VINs and Production Data, this is contest question number 24. What is the engine code for the standard 170 cubic inch, one-barrel carburetor, 105 horsepower inline-six engine in the fourth position of a 1966 Ford Bronco's Vehicle Identification Number, or VIN? The legal vehicle identification number for a 1966 Ford Bronco is stamped in the top of the passenger side frame rail between the front passenger suspension and the passenger floor pan toe board within this green highlighted circle. The frame VIN stamping begins and ends with a star, and the 11-digit VIN is stamped in between the two stars. The frame VIN stamping on this red Bronco Roadster reads star U13FL792300 star. The data plate on a 1966 Ford Bronco was riveted to the left-hand inner kick panel near the foot-operated emergency brake pedal, as seen on this Bronco Roadster. This body location was used instead of the driver door like other 1966 Ford trucks because the Bronco Roadster came standard without doors, so there would be no place to mount it on those vehicles. Instead of using a different mounting location for the Roadster and using the driver door location for the sports utility and the wagon, Ford elected to mount the data plates for all 1966 Broncos on the left-hand inner kick panel. The data plate used on 1966 Ford trucks contained the warranty number, which is the same as the 11-digit VIN, on the top line, while the production data was split between the middle and bottom lines. The middle line of production data has WB for the wheelbase code, color for the exterior paint color code, model for the model code, body for the trim code and the body type code, trans for the transmission code, and axle for the rear axle code. The bottom line has max GVW pounds for the maximum gross vehicle weight in pounds, cert net HP RPM for the engine's certified net horsepower at RPM, and DSO for district sales office code or domestic special order code or foreign special order code. Interestingly, the 1966 Ford Bronco data plates only had the green highlighted areas filled out. The maximum gross vehicle weight in pounds and the certified net horsepower at RPM areas highlighted in red were not stamped on 66 Bronco data plates like they were on other Ford trucks that model year. This is the data plate from the red Bronco Roadster's interior shown at the beginning of this section. The top line shows the warranty number, or VIN, of U13FL792300, which matches perfectly with the frame VIN stamping seen a moment ago. The middle line reads WB092, color J, model U130, body 796, trans C, axle 03, while the bottom line reads DSO 62. I put together this image to show the structure of the 11-digit 1966 Ford Bronco VIN. The basic model code is the first, second, and third VIN digits. The engine code is the fourth VIN digit. The build plant code is the fifth VIN digit, and the numerical sequence of assembly is the 6th through 11th VIN digits. I created this table, and all the ones you're going to see in the remainder of this section, to clearly define how to decode the Bronco's VIN and production data. These are the three possible values for the basic model code, VIN digits number 1 through 3. U13 for the Bronco Roadster, U14 for the Sports Utility, and U15 for the Wagon. The VIN of the red Roadster seen in this section is U13FL792300, so the U13 portion tells us that this is a Bronco Roadster. There are two possible values for the engine code, VIN digit number 4, F for the 170 cubic inch one-barrel inline-six engine, and N for the 289 two-barrel V8 released on March 2, 1966. In the Roadster's VIN of U13FL792300, the F in the fourth position tells us that this Bronco was originally equipped with the 171V inline-six engine. Seeing as all 1966 Broncos were built at the Ford Michigan truck plant as previously discussed, L is the only possible value for the build plant code, VIN digit number 5. The Roadster's VIN of U13FL792300 does indeed have an L in the fifth position. The final component of the 1966 Bronco VIN is the numerical sequence of assembly, VIN digits number 6 through 11, which tells us the month and year that the vehicle was produced using the ranges in this table. The Roadster's VIN of U13FL792300 has a numerical sequence of assembly of 792300, which corresponds to a December 1965 build month and year. We can see from this table that the numerical sequence of assembly increases by 14,000 units each and every month. This may seem like way too many build slots for Broncos, but keep in mind that the Ford Michigan truck plant was also building F-Series pickup trucks at the time. Besides, the same numerical sequence of assembly numbers were used in all 9 FoMoCo assembly plants that built trucks. So the range of 14,000 possible units built in a month had to be greater than the most units that any of those 9 truck plants would produce. As a quick aside, those 9 plants were the Dallas Assembly Plant, Kansas City Assembly Plant, Lorain Assembly Plant, Mahwah Assembly Plant, Michigan Truck Plant, Norfolk Assembly Plant, Ontario Truck Plant, San Jose Assembly Plant, and Twin Cities Assembly Plant. Interestingly, only 2 of the 9, the Michigan Truck Plant and the Ontario Truck Plant, were dedicated to only manufacturing trucks, as the other 7 assembly plants built cars and trucks. Turning to the production data, let's have a look at the wheelbase code, shown on the data plate under WB. Because all 1966 Broncos had a 92-inch or 234-centimeter wheelbase, the only possible value for the wheelbase code is 092. Looking at the Roadster's data plate, we indeed see that the wheelbase code is 092. Earlier in the video, we reviewed the full range of 14 colors available on the 1966 Bronco. Here is that information reorganized for easy decoding of the data plate color code. In this table, we have the color codes, the paint color names, the FoMoCo mix code numbers, and the DuPont Dulux code numbers. The Roadster's data plate shows a color code of J, which the color code table tells us is Rangoon Red, FoMoCo mix code number 1515-A, DuPont Dulux code 93-95616-H, and was a truck-only paint color. Next on the data plate is the model code, which identifies the GVW of the vehicle. Model codes ending in 0 were Broncos with standard 3,900 pound or 1,770 kilogram GVWs, while those ending in 2 were Broncos with the heavy-duty package that had 4,700 pound or 2,130 kilogram GVWs. The model code on the Roadster's data plate is U130, which the table tells us decodes to a Bronco Roadster with the standard 3,900 pound or 1,770 kilogram GVW. The 3-digit body code on the data plate has 2 components. The first part is the interior trim code, which is the first digit of the body code. We have seen this information already when we discussed the available seating configurations. Here is that information reorganized for easy decoding of the data plate trim code component of the body code. The Roadster's data plate has a body code of 796, meaning that 7 is the trim code. Looking up trim code 7 in the table, we see that there are two decode possibilities. Both have light silver mink front left-hand and right-hand bucket seats, but one doesn't have an optional light silver mink two-person rear bench seat, and the other does. As it turns out, this Roadster does have the optional light silver mink rear bench seat, but the trim code can't tell us if this was originally built this way, as the rear bench seat is not recorded in the trim code. The lack of a bulkhead behind the front bucket seats indicates that this Bronco was indeed built with the optional rear bench seat. The second component of the body code are digits number 2 and 3, which form the body type code. 96 for the Bronco Roadster, 97 for the Sports Utility, and 98 for the wagon. The Roadster's body code of 796 on the data plate gives us a body type code of 96, which corresponds to a Bronco Roadster. The transmission code for all 1966 Broncos was C for the 3-speed synchronized manual transmission that was a column shift. As expected, the Roadster's data plate shows a transmission code of C. The penultimate data plate item is the rear axle code. This table shows a total of 12 rear axle choices for the 66 Bronco, made up of 3.50 to 1, 4.11 to 1, and 4.57 to 1 ratios, available in standard 2,780 pound or 1,260 kilogram capacity, heavy-duty 3,300 pound or 1,500 kilogram capacity, non-locking, and limited slip varieties. The Roadster's data plate shows a rear axle code of 03, which the table shows is the 4.11 to 1 non-locking rear axle with a 2,780 pound or 1,260 kilogram capacity, standard on Broncos with the 171V inline 6 engine. The final piece of production data to cover is the DSO code, entered as either a 2-digit code for normal production or a 6-digit code for special order production. The DSO code tells us the district sales office, domestic special order, or foreign special order associated with the vehicle. The possible DSO codes fill 3 pages, with a partial 4th page providing additional information. The Roadster's data plate shows a DSO code of 62, which page 2 of the table decodes to tell us that this Bronco was ordered through a dealership in the Houston, Texas sales district, which covered southern Texas. Putting all of this decode information together, we have this Bronco Roadster's VIN decode explaining in detail the 4 components that make up the 11-digit VIN. This is the first page of the decode for the production data shown on the data plate, showing the wheelbase, color, model, and body codes. Here on the second page, the production data decode wraps up with the transmission, rear axle, and DSO codes. And that is how you properly and fully decode the VIN and production data for a 1966 Ford Bronco. For Section 25, 1966 Ford Bronco Roadster VIN U13FL792300, this is contest question number 25. The 1966 Ford Bronco speedometer shows from 0 to how many miles per hour? In the final section of the video, let's take a closer look at the 1966 Ford Bronco Roadster that we saw a few photos of and did the VIN and production data decode for in the previous section. Here we have the left front 3/4 view. This Bronco has been impeccably and almost perfectly restored to 100% factory correct condition. I say almost because there are a couple of restoration errors that I'll cover as we review the photos. The white painted fender-mounted rearview mirror was standard equipment on the Roadster according to page 4 of the Bronco section of the 1966 Ford Carfax book. The little chrome thing to the left of the rearview mirror is the base to the antenna for this Roadster's optional manual AM radio. The left-hand side view reveals the beautiful Rangoon red paint on this Bronco. The fiberglass contoured door openings that were standard equipment on the Roadster did provide some fallout protection for front passengers. This vehicle has the optional bright metal wheel covers front and rear. The presence of these wheel covers could indicate that this Roadster was built with the optional custom equipment package, the contents of which are shown on page 4 of the Carfax book Bronco section. I've struck out the armrests, right hand and left hand door models with a red line, as the Roadster did not come standard with doors, and the green arrow indicates the wheel covers in the custom equipment package. Notice that this vehicle is equipped with the long shift lever for the 2-speed transfer case on the transmission tunnel, correct for this vehicle with optional front bucket seats built before March 1st, 1966. This is the left front wheel. You can see that the wheel cover has a hole in the center to provide clearance around the standard manual locking hubs on the Dana 20 front axle. Visible on the tire sidewall at the 9 o'clock position is the tire size of 7.00 by 15 inch. These tires are actually smaller than the standard tires for the Bronco, which were 7.35 by 15 4-ply rated passenger tires, according to page 3 of the Bronco section of the Carfax book. So this is one of the restoration errors. This is the left rear wheel, and the intact wheel cover centers have the Ford name stamped around the circumference twice and accented with black paint in the letters, and in 3 rings around the rest of the wheel cover. So a set of these optional wheel covers included 2 with the center holes for the front wheels and 2 without center holes for the rear wheels. Visible in this left rear 3/4 view is the red painted gas cap mounted on the left-hand quarter panel forward of the taillight. The cap was for the standard 14.5 US gallon or 55-liter fuel tank centrally mounted behind the rear axle. Additionally, a couple more options can be seen, namely the chrome rear bumper, the front one is also chrome, and the bright metal taillight bezels instead of body-colored ones. The first and second green arrows show these 2 items as part of the custom equipment package. We're now at 3 of the 6 items checked off for this Roadster having the custom equipment package. This excerpt from page 4 of the Bronco section of the Carfax book tells us that Broncos came standard with painted bumpers. They were painted white, but front and rear chrome bumpers were optional and included the bright metal taillight bezels. The rear view of this Bronco Roadster shows the high mounting position of the rear bumper, which helped the vehicle's angle of departure. Here we have the second restoration mistake. The rear license plate holder, which swings down when the tailgate is lowered, should be body color and not chrome. Also seen are the light silver mink padded left-hand and right-hand sun visors, which were available as standalone options and as part of the custom equipment group, as shown by the bottom green arrow. This now has us at 4 of the 6 items in the custom equipment group present on this Roadster. The right rear 3/4 view shows the tailgate mounted spare wheel and tire. On Roadsters and wagons without an optional rear bench seat and on all sports utilities, the spare tire was secured to the cargo side of the steel bulkhead that ran side to side in the body behind the front seat or seats. However, on Roadsters and wagons equipped with the optional rear 2-person bench seat, the spare wheel and tire was secured to the cargo side of the tailgate, like this Roadster. This right-hand side view shows the clean and simple shape of the Bronco Roadster body. In this right front 3/4 view, we can see the optional front chrome bumper, as well as the standard dual vacuum-powered windshield wipers with individual motors mounted to the top of the windshield. The front view shows the Bronco's ground clearance and high front bumper mounting position, which helped the vehicle's angle of approach. Looking into the interior, we can see the fiberglass contoured door openings in detail, along with the standard black padded dash pad and front seat belts. I can't determine whether the black front floor mat is the standard vinyl covered version or the optional standard vinyl covered rubber one. The optional front bucket seats are covered in the proper light silver mink vinyl material in the correct sew pattern. A close look reveals that the driver's bucket seat is adjustable, while the passenger one is fixed directly to the floor pan with no fore and aft adjustment. The Bronco's instrument panel design is simple, with all gauges and controls within easy reach of the driver. Notice that the steering wheel and steering column are black like the dash pad, as all Broncos had these components in black only. The 3-speed manual transmission column-mounted shift lever can be seen on the right side of the steering column. The chrome knobs at each end of the bottom part of the dash pad are the locking knobs for the standard fold-down front windshield. Interestingly, the steering wheel does not have an optional chrome horn ring, which means that this Roadster was in fact not restored to fully have the custom equipment package, as this excerpt from page 4 of the Bronco section of the Carfax book shows that a chrome horn ring was part of that option package. To the far left of the steering column are the pull knob switches for the headlights, top, and carburetor choke, bottom, with the windshield washer pump push button mounted between them. The 0 to 100 mile per hour, or 0 to 162 kilometers per hour speedometer is to the right. Starting at the 8 o'clock position around the speedometer dial and going clockwise, we have the left turn indicator, the minus 60 to plus 60 amp gauge for the alternator, the fuel gauge, the high beam headlight indicator, the 120 to 230 degree Fahrenheit, or 49 to 110 degrees Celsius, coolant temperature gauge, the 0 to 90 psi, or 0 to 620 kilopascals engine oil pressure gauge, and the right turn indicator. Looking to the right of the steering column at the first group of controls, the upper left knob is to activate the optional ICC emergency lamp flasher, which was included on the Bronco at extra cost, but could be deleted from production for a credit, according to the excerpt from page 4 of the Carfax book Bronco section. Below that is a red warning light with the words Emergency Warning Flasher, FoMoCo 1, embossed around the bezel. The bottom left knob is the optional hand-operated throttle, listed as an engine equipment option in this excerpt from page 3 of the Bronco section of the Carfax book. To the right of the hand-operated throttle knob is the ignition switch. Embossed around the bezel starting at lower left and going clockwise is the abbreviation ACC for accessories, followed by the words off, on, and start. Above the ignition switch is the optional cigar lighter, which was available as a standalone option or as part of the custom equipment group, per this excerpt from page 4 of the Carfax book Bronco section. We determined a moment ago that this Bronco doesn't have the custom equipment group because of the missing chrome horn ring. I believe that the lack of chrome horn ring is also a restoration mistake, as the odds of this Bronco having 5 of the 6 options in the custom equipment package added separately seems pretty unlikely. To the right of the ignition switch is the optional manual AM radio, as listed in this excerpt from page 4 of the Bronco section in the Carfax book. We have already seen this radio antenna mounted on the driver front fender ahead of the rearview mirror. Note that this radio is called manual because all station tuning is done with the right-hand knob. There are no preset buttons on this radio. Above the radio are the 3 control knobs for the optional fresh air heater and defroster, per this excerpt from page 4 of the Carfax book Bronco section. Remember that there was no standard heater and defroster on the 66 Bronco. It was available only as an option. The left hand of these 3 control knobs has the words temperature control embossed around the bezel. The middle knob bezel shows embossed words fan, off, high, low around the top, and pull for def, DEF, around the bottom, where DEF stands for defrost. The right-hand knob bezel is embossed with pull for heat around the top. In this interior photo, we find another restoration faux pas. The 7-slotted grille with downward-facing openings that is situated to the right of the heater controls and the AM radio is the radio speaker grille. However, this screw-on part was only used in pre-production units and possibly very early build units, but definitely was no longer a production part when this car was built in December 1965. This photo clearly shows the shift pattern on the knob of the shift lever for the 2-speed transfer case immediately below the radio. Zooming in on the shift knob, we see that in sequence from front to rear, the shift lever provides 4-wheel drive low, neutral, 2-wheel drive high, and 4-wheel drive high. We've already seen these photos of where the data plate is located on a 66 Bronco in the last section, but it is important enough to bear repeating. Here again is this Roadster's data plate showing VIN U13FL792300, wheelbase 092, color J, model U130, body 796, transmission C, rear axle 03, and DSO 62. The area behind the optional front bucket seats is where the steel bulkhead would have been installed at the factory if this Roadster hadn't been ordered with the optional rear 3-person bench seat visible at lower right. The spare tire jack handle at the front and tire iron at the rear are mounted to the floor pan behind the driver's seat using a wing nut for easy removal when they were needed. This is the optional rear bench seat that could hold 2 people, which is upholstered in the same light silver mink crinkle grain vinyl with the same sew pattern as the optional front bucket seats. Notice that there are no seat belts provided in the rear. Hold on, kids! The spare wheel and tire mounted to the cargo side of the tailgate can also be seen. The white painted spare wheel is correct. The spare wheel and tire bottle jack and jacking instructions are mounted between the right rear wheel well and the right inside surface of the tailgate. Again, a wing nut is used to secure the jack to the Bronco's bed, allowing for easy removal. With the tailgate down, the spare wheel and tire mounted to the inside face of the tailgate can be clearly seen. This right front 3/4 view in the engine compartment shows the 170 cubic inch 1-barrel inline 6 engine, equipped with the standard oil bath air cleaner. The black plastic cowl hat at upper left and the heater hoses running between the engine and the heater core in the cowl area below the black plastic cowl hat confirm the presence of the optional fresh air heater and defroster. We've seen this front view of the engine compartment at the beginning of the previous section, as the 1966 Ford Bronco's legal VIN is stamped in the top of the passenger side frame rail between the front passenger suspension and the passenger floor pan toe board within this green highlight circle. The frame VIN stamping begins and ends with a star, and the 11-digit VIN is stamped in between the 2 stars. The frame VIN stamping on this Bronco reads star U13FL792300 star. In this left front 3/4 view of the engine compartment, you can just make out the top of the Gemmer worm and roller steering box to the left of the light blue windshield washer fluid bag at the bottom of the photo. And that's a wrap, my friends. Thank you again to African-American designer McKinley William Thompson Jr. for his brilliant work in designing the 1966 Ford Bronco. Thank you very much for watching video number 27. I hope you enjoyed learning all the facts about the 1966 Ford Bronco. Please don't forget to submit your answers to the 25 questions posed in the video to try and win one of the 3 prize packs. Remember to email your answers to me at adrian.clements@me.com. Please be sure to check out videos number 1 through 26 on my channel for more interesting FoMoCo related content. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy my videos and want to support my efforts, please share the Yours in Old FoMoCo Iron YouTube channel with your old car friends. Thanks. If you have any questions or if you have a suggestion for a future video topic, please feel free to email me at adrian.clements@me.com. Yours in Old FoMoCo Iron, Adrian.